is because if you wanted to kind of have a desi version of a Latin script, say if I have to write my name in English, and if I want to make it like an Indianized version of this word, so what we do is that we try to put this top line letter A or any other English alphabets and make it like a desi version of that language. Yeah, so that's the power of this line. So it kind of gives this Indian identity, which is very very unique to it. So that's one part of it. The second part also part of it is that the script is also very unique in terms of its writing system. So if I give you a ruled book, so what you typically do is when you have to write the Devanagari scripts, we use the top line. Yeah? But if you use to write any other scripts, we use the bottom line, yeah, the baseline. So Devanagari scripts is only one script which kind of hangs from the top, which does not sit on a baseline. But whereas all the scripts, most of the scripts around the world will have will be sitting on a baseline. Yeah? So just like I said, how you use a ruled notebook to kind of write any script. So these are the unique features, and that's the reason why I wanted to kind of
Hello, Uday sir. Sir, I think your voice is not coming here. There's no audio. So if you can hear us.
Mr. Dean, Mr. Dean,
Yes, sir.
either you or Dr. Rajendra can
Rajendra sir
call.
is calling. Is
Yeah, yeah,
right now calling on this. Hello, Uday sir. Dear participants, we are trying to resolve the issue. Please be patient. Hello, 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 sir. Uday sir is just resolving his issues. He's coming right now.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I've been trying to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're trying to
Is,
reach this.
is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I went ahead. I didn't know because I could only see my presentation slide on my screen. So I didn't know
That's fine.
where I left. Maybe
That's
I'll
fine.
repeat again. So I hope it's not a problem. So anyway, so I don't know where I left exactly, but I was told that it was here. So I'll continue from. Sorry.
Yes, sir. You had left it from here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. So Devanagari is one of the unique scripts in the world. Yeah. So for two reasons. One is that uh, uh, it has this top line which is called the Shiroreka, and which you will find in all the other characters of Devanagari scripts. So unlike any other script, this is very unique to this Devanagari scripts because you will not find this top line to across the scripts across the world. Yeah. So even in our own Indian scripts, you will not find other scripts having these kind of visual characteristics. So that kind of gives us an identity to the scripts and also to the country, primarily because, so say if I have to write my name in English and if I have to make it into an Indianized version, so what typically people do is that they put a top line onto my all the English alphabets. So to make it like a Desi version of that particular word, yeah, though it is written in English, to kind of make it into a Indianized version. So this horizontal line, the Shirareka, has that kind of a power, which kind of brings this Indianness to it. So that's the reason why I kind of choose this Devanagari script. So that's one unique aspect to this the script. And the second part is that if I give you a ruled notebook, if I have to ask you, if I told you to write in your own mother tongue, so typically what we do is, if it is Devanagari scripts, you will write it with the top line, yeah. And if it is any other scripts, you will use the base line, the bottom line, to kind of write the text, yeah, as if the letter is sitting on the baseline. So all the other scripts across the world most often use this baseline. Yeah? So unlike the Devanagari scripts, because it is the only script which uses top line, it kind of hangs from the top line. It does not sit on a baseline. So that is one of the unique features in terms of its writing system is concerned. So if you look at from the writing point of view and also visual characteristics point of view, so Devanagari script has a very unique characteristics. Yeah. So that is the reason I chose this Devanagari scripts, and it also kind of gives this Indian identity. Yeah. And so you can also see that the same symbol can also kind of become a capital letter R, which it kind of expands to rupees. So rupiah and rupees both kind of denote our Indian currency. Yeah. So it is basically an abbreviation. So the reason to use a Latin script is primarily because so this symbol is not just going to be used by the Indian nationals, but also international community. So I wanted to create something which is universal in design, so that even the global community can kind of comprehend what the symbol stands for. So that is the reason I wanted to kind of blend both the scripts together, the rupiah and rupees together. So it is unique for India, and at the same time it is also global. Yeah, in the larger sense, in the larger context, everybody could also kind of relate and understand what this symbol stands for. Yeah, because English being there for across quite a lot of countries, and people are also familiar with the kind of scripts. So in that sense, am I still audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh, okay. I just want to cross check whether there was some sounds coming up, so I was afraid. Okay, fine. So I kind of blended both the scripts together to kind of give this as an universal identity. Yeah. So at the same time, very unique to our own country. There was further meaning added to it. So here you can see this is just a symbolic representation where you kind of the top two lines kind of reflect the tricolor flag. So you might wonder why tricolor flag has to be portrayed onto the symbol. So like I mentioned earlier, India is a very diverse country, as we all know, and it is diverse in diverse fields. Yeah, say we have different states, different languages, different cultures, different traditions. Our food is also different. Our weather is different. Our geography is different. and our fashion and everything is completely different. But still, in spite of all these diversities, we are all together. We are all together as one. Yeah, as one Indian. Yeah. So flag is one thing which is does not have any kind of a bias. It does not represent any particular community or section of people or a region, but it stands for every one of us. Yeah, so it represents a common Indian. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of create a symbol that addresses the common man. Yeah, the common Indian. Yeah, and so flag is the only thing which is kind of without any bias, at the same time which binds us all together in spite of all the differences and the diversity that we have in our country. So, and I want, like I said, this is one of the key reasons to use this flag. And of course, it also brings patriotism. We are also very patriotic about our flag, and it is a very powerful symbol, not just in our country, across the world. If you look at it, flag is something which people always kind of feel proud of, and they kind of own it, and they feel that they belong to it. Yeah. So I want to create a symbol that like kind of represents the common Indian, and also make it like a powerful entity, a powerful symbol. Yeah, without any bias or which represents every individuals of this country. Yeah, which people can associate and relate as if it is their own symbol. Yeah, so that is the reason I wanted to incorporate the flag into it. So another aspect of it is also to kind of denote the nature of the exercise itself in terms of the currency. Yeah. So you also find this equal to sign. So one is of course to kind of represent a balanced and stable economy, but more than that, it also represents the economy itself. Yeah. So it is basically represents the equal exchange of values. Yeah. If you look traditionally, if you look at how commerce worked, is we kind of exchange products. Yeah, it's the barter system that we used to follow in the earlier times, in ancient times. So we kind of give products of equal, exchange products of equal values. Say if I give you 1 kilo of sugar, you might give me 2 kilo of atta, which is of equal value. I'm just giving you an example. So likewise, we kind of exchange products of equal values. Yeah. So it's just like give and take policy. Right? And over time, people kind of devised a common denominations, which is like currencies and coins, so that which could be used for transaction for any kind of a product. Yeah. So if I give you 10 rupees, probably you might give you 10 rupees worth of a soap or a toothbrush or a paste or something else. Yeah. So it's just like one becomes one common entity, and which kind of can be used for any kind of transaction to buy a product or sell a product. Yeah. So it is again basically giving and taking. So that's the bottom line, or the base of how economy works. You know, the commerce works. So this equal to sign kind of represents that this exchange of commerce, this exchange of values. Yeah. So at the same time, like I said, I wanted to kind of show our country is a very stable and balanced economy. So if you remember in 2008, so there were so many countries which went through a serious economic crisis, especially Greece. If you look at it, they were really down. Yeah, and likewise there were several other countries also which was very hugely affected. So I wanted to create a symbol that kind of represents, which is like which does not kind of which represent prosperity and growth and so on. Yeah, so stability. Uh, Another aspect to it is that I also designed the symbol in relation to others. Yeah, so it was like it has a lot of similarity to the various other symbols that are across the across the world. Yeah, so I kind of studied several symbols and tried to understand their history, their story behind it, how they were designed, and what do they mean, how they came about. So it was in-depth research that I kind of went about in trying to understand. So in the next slide, probably it will be a lot more clearer. These are few symbols which I've portrayed, put it in the slides. Of course, there are several other symbols also, which I kind of briefly studied to speak. And so here you can kind of very clearly see there is a lot of commonalities across all these symbols. Yeah. So one of the commonality is that a word, a letter is being cut across by a line, either was one line or two lines, and that could be either horizontally or vertically or diagonally. Yeah. So that is seems to be a common visual grammar that that is being established as a part of a currency symbol. So in fact, in design, this is what we learn in visual communication theory. There's something called semiotics theory, which talks about various visual signs and how people interpret and understand these visual signs. Within that, you have a branch called semantics. So semantics basically means that there are certain visual symbols which will connote certain meaning. Yeah, say for example, if I put a cross, so a cross will means a Christianity. Yeah. So if I put a swastika symbol, it would mean a Hindu religion. Yeah. So if I put a bone and a two skull, then it means a danger. Yeah. So likewise, there are a lot of these conventionally understood symbols to certain meanings. Yeah. So the symbols kind of denote naturally to a certain meaning. Yeah. So traffic signs, and there are so many signs. Yeah. So likewise, so I try to kind of identify what a currency symbol would look like. So this is one thing which makes it very unique for the currency sign. Like I am showing it to you, that there is this line which cuts across a letter. Yeah. So I also want to kind of follow the same visual grammar instead of creating something which is completely radical. And probably if I did something like that, probably people will kind of find it very difficult to understand and relate it to the India currency symbol. Yeah. So if you have to design a currency symbol, you have to kind of follow up the same visual grammar. The only then people will kind of naturally perceive it or relate it to the currency sign instead of any other symbols like a traffic sign or a logo or identity of anything else. Yeah. Instead, it should look like it is a currency sign. And that's the reason once it was kind of implemented, people could kind of accept it and adapt it very quickly. Yeah. So I kind of based it on the already existing designs that were around the world, and as you can already see it. Yeah. So in fact, one of the people after I won, there were there are a couple of questions which came. People kind of criticized the design, that people told that it is just a copy of the dollar sign or a euro sign, and I don't disagree with it. I completely agree. Yes, of course it is similar to all the other designs, but it has a purpose. Yeah. So you always have to understand the purpose and the context. Yeah. Sometimes you may have to go with the flow, not necessarily you have to fight against it and try to be completely unique all the time. So you need to understand the context, the users, and why you're doing it, and so on. So it was indeed, it was meant to be in harmonious with the rest of the currency symbols. It was no way intent to completely be a different design altogether. Yeah. So like you already see it. Yeah. So it is just all of them has this commonalities. It is very harmonious, and people can kind of really relate it to as a currency sign. Yeah. So that was very intentional and was purposeful. Yeah. So I kind of never denied it. It is like kind of similar to other symbols. And another thing is this familiarity of, I try to use this existing, the alphabets, the characters that are there in the language itself to kind of use a symbol, which is very simple. And so that, one second, I just, why this is important is because, why it is important is because familiarity makes the design easy to adapt. Yeah. So that's why I use the existing letters. It is also easy for you to write. You don't have to kind of practice again. So if you are familiar with the Devanagari scripts, it is easy for you to write the symbol. And if you are familiar with the Latin script, it is easy for you to write that. Yeah. So yeah, everything becomes a lot more easier and convenient because you are already familiar with it. I will also give you one common example. Yeah, how familiarity helps in design. Say you are, am I still there? I just want to check once in a while so that I don't get lost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just asking this question again and again because I don't know when I get disconnected and when I'm there. Yeah, I hope it's fine.
It's absolutely fine. It's better to be safe.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So I'll give you an example and a context why familiarity is important. Say if you're traveling, and of course not now. I know it's the pandemic situation. So generally during a normal times and during our normal earlier times, yeah. So say you're traveling in a public space, in a public transport, yeah, say in a railway station or an airport or train station and so on. Yeah, it's always crowded and there are so many people around you. We usually don't interact with them. Yeah, so we don't interact because they are all strangers. Say suddenly if your friend or a relative is see them in the crowd. Yeah, what you do is typically you say hi, hello, and make conversation. So it helps you to kind of make a connection. Yeah, so to talk to them, and it kind of opens up your mind and go speak to them. Yeah, it takes another step. But if you're not familiar, if you don't know the person, you don't kind of usually interact in a normal circumstances. Yeah. So unless if you want to help something or do aid somebody in some difficult situation, that's a different case. That's a standalone case. But generally, when you're traveling, you don't kind of interact. Well, typically, yeah, if you try to kind of avoid strangers, if you don't want to speak to them, and so on. But if you see somebody who's familiar, familiar faces will often attract you, unless of course if you have a bad relationship, then that's a different case. But you generally kind of go meet them and talk to them, or say at least hi, hello, or you can say wave your hands, yeah, to make a connection. Yeah, so that's why familiarity becomes a lot more easier when it kind of if you want to make people accept. So in fact, that is the reason when the symbol was announced, quickly people adapted it, one because they are already familiar with the language and the script and the visual characteristics of it, and it become adaptable. Yeah, so it did not have any difficulties. So soon everybody kind of started to using it. Yeah, so uh, and another reason is that it was also very simple in nature. I did not have too many visual elements into it. It's just basically 3 strokes. Here you can see in terms of the color codes, the number of strokes that it has. So what it does is that it gives you a very high recall value. So you don't have to process it cognitively very much. It's just very simple design. The simplicity is also something which often registers in people's mind. Yeah, and it stays there for a very long time, and if you want to recall that, it becomes easier for you to recall. Yeah, so in that sense also the symbol kind of is very adaptive, and you can use it, yeah, without any difficulties. So I also kind of worked upon the various construction aspect of it at a very minutest level in terms of 1 degree and also 1 millimeter and so on and so forth, trying to get an appropriate design and which is visually that looks interesting and enjoyable. So I also did some small clips. I shot some videos to understand how people would exactly write the symbol. So this is just one video. I hope it will play. It's just a small 20-second clip. A person is drawing with the Devanagari script and then the numerals to speak. So I tried with several videos and shot several videos to see how people would definitely adapt and write with it. So this was just one clip to kind of show you how people will write. Yeah. Yeah. I also try to see the visual balance. Yeah, as you see, the letter R has a diagonal line at the bottom, which kind of makes you feel like the stroke, the letter is going to fall on the left side. Yeah. So to kind of counter that, I kind of put this opposite cut, this 2 strokes on the top to kind of visually balance it. So of course, these are all technical details. As a designer, I kind of work upon. Yeah, being a type enthusiastic and also typographer, I'm very much I do pay attention to details and finer details to ensure that we kind of create a good design. So I did not leave it there. I also did the symbol for Paisa. Of course, this was not a mandate by the as part of the competition, but I kind of gave it to them because if at all in future, if they thought that they should also have a Paisa symbol, so they should not again float a competition, and it will be a lot of logistic issues and expenses and so on. So I thought, why not give us something beforehand, and which could also be in harmonious with the symbol itself, with the rupee symbol. Instead of being something again radical. As you know, all the other countries also have these denominations, which I'll show you later on. Yeah, they also have the, like, for example, dollar and cent. Yeah, each one of them has as a symbol for itself. So that's the reason I kind of gave this idea. But of course, the committee said that they will kind of look at it. I hope I'm there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So here you see the symbol with the Devanagari numerals. Typically, you see the symbol with the numbers, yeah, because we want to kind of it's basically amount, yeah, the cost aspect to it, yeah. So you see this with the new Devanagari numerals, and here it's with the Arabic numerals. Just to kind of understand how it will visually appear with the numerals. I also try to look upon the keyboard layout and the Unicode aspects of it. Of course, I'm not an expert in computer science, and I'm neither familiar with this keyboard input encoding. But this was just my preliminary studies. Based on that, I kind of try to position this the symbol into a particular place where people could be using it in the digital medium. Yeah, so during your typing, or when you're designing a font and you want to incorporate the font, and so where does this symbol come in? So like I said, I'm not an expert, but this is just my initial ideas, and I thought I should kind of suggest a place where it could be used in a particular font or in a character set. So as you notice, there are the several ideas that has gone into this into the design, yeah, to make it unique, to make it like an Indian design, yeah. So there are multiple meanings that are embedded into it to kind of create a meaningful symbol. So you may wonder why you need a symbol. So as you can see, there are several other countries which also use uh, rupees as their currency. Yeah. So here mostly the Southeast Asian countries. So none of them has a symbol. Now that India has a symbol, so you can kind of dis distinguish itself from the other countries' symbol. So you can also see the denominations. Yeah, we have paisa. Rest of them also use paisa, cents, and so on. But the rupee is the same. The currency is called as the rupees. So Indonesia, they write it like RP, and rest of them write like RS, just the way how we used to write earlier. So I did not leave it there. I also did something more beyond the design. So what I did is I just tried to pick up examples from our day-to-day life and showcase those symbols onto the products. Yeah, just the way how we will see the symbol in our day-to-day life. Yeah, so in a common activities. Yeah, so where all the symbol can be, and I also chose this examples based on the different printing technique, surfaces, and uh, uh, also appearances, and so on and so forth. So I kind of try to choose examples of different nature, yeah, depending on the applications and where it will actually be seen. Again, at the same time, where a common person will see, yeah, where a common man will kind of get to use to seeing this symbol. Yeah. So this is one example on a tin where you kind of see typically this save certain amount, discount, and so on and so forth written. So you will find again symbol being written there. And then this is in dot matrix printer. So I try to adjust the design based on whether it will be visible or not in the dot matrix. As you know, there are several places still in our country where they use dot matrix printer, especially in post offices and public buildings. Yeah, so they do use, even in courts also, sometimes you'll find there are dot matrix printer in use. Yeah, and they also often use rupee symbols and this amount, so on and so forth, to kind of showcase to print. So I just wanted to check whether the symbol will look legible and readable. And here it's a stamping technique, and I've shown the tablet. So typically, this information is printed at the time of manufacturing to kind of. There are two information that is very important. One is the expiry date, manufacturing date, and also the amount of the tablet. So you just wanted to ensure that when you stamp it, typically the ink expands. So during that, the symbol should still be visible and clear so that people can understand it as a symbol. So that's where you go back to this construction drawing, which I showed you earlier. That's where it comes in, where you kind of adjust this minute measurements to ensure that these kind of printings are taken care of. Yeah, where the symbol is still clear and legible to see and read. In a complex background, I'm sure you know this is a bond sheet. The older bond sheets has rupees and RS and Ru written. I kind of removed it and tried to replace it with the symbol itself. And so how do you see it in a very complex background, whether it will still be seen and so on. And this is another stamping technique. It's called franking, again used in Ford Post Office. I kind of replaced rupees written into a symbol just to ensure that it is visible and it could be printed in different surfaces. Yeah. And I also suggested a position in the keyboard layout. Here you can kind of see in numeral 6. So typically the old keyboard used to have an upper arrow. I mean, not old keyboard, the standard keyboard does have an upper arrow. This is often used by the programmers, yeah, for programming. And I thought for a common layman, this can be replaced with the rupee symbol, because the upper arrow can also be got by combinations of various other keys. Yeah, so it was kind of redundant for me from my perspective. So I thought I'll replace it. But in the recent times, you will also find keyboards. The symbol is being projected, it's being placed, but you will see them in the numeral 4, where the dollar sign is there. You either have dollar or rupee symbol. Yeah? So you will have new keyboards which has that. Not all of them, but you also find such kind of a keyboards where the rupee symbol is there. And this is a railway ticket. Here you can see the old and the new tickets, how it will kind of be seen. Again, ticket is something which common person will often kind of interact with. Yeah, so railway people traveling in local trains, they will be familiar. So just to give you an example of those touch points. One of the advantage is also that it can be used in an older technology, just like typewriter. Again, you will find some places still typewriters are being used. Yeah, so in this case, what all you need to do is just you need to type letter R and you have a strike through. So there is already a strike through which is available as a part of the key in the typewriter. So you don't have to do anything new or add any more keys. So with the existing setup itself, you will still be able to get the symbol. So in that sense, it is kind of compatible with the older technology and also the newer technology and also the future. Bank challans are something which we'll often kind of interact or see the symbol being portrayed. Yeah. So here you can see how people write with the amount. And also in the LED screens, whether still the symbol will be visible or it will show well. And here in stamps, it's a very small size. I just want to check whether in the small size it will be visible or not. So rupees is often written in the stamps. I kind of replaced it with the symbol to kind of showcase how it will look like to visually understand. And again, one more bank check. Typically, RU and RS is written. I kind of replaced it with the symbol. Yeah. So this is the most standard place where we will see the symbol, which is the barcode and where the price of a product is written, where you want to buy something or sell something, you can print it. Yeah. So here you can see it along with the rest of the currency signs, which is the dollar, US dollar, and the just 1 second. Am I there? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
Hello. Yes. Yeah, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you later? I'm sorry, there's too many calls. Yeah, so a barcode is something where we often see it, yeah, because it's which shows the price of the product. Yeah. Uh, a symbol should signify a meaningful thought. Meaning to a symbol is like soul to a body. Without soul, the body is nothing. Without deeper, sensible, and thought-provoking meaning, the symbol is needless. This symbol truly symbolizes our country, our tradition, our nation's economy, and its currency. Yeah, so that is almost we are at the end of the presentation. So I'm thankful to all my school teachers from Lashat Lane Residential Junior College, where I studied from 1st standard to 12th standard. It is a boarding school in Chennai. I'm really thankful to all my teachers and staff there. It is them who kind of nurtured me and made me a person whom I am. I'm also thankful to all my professors from School of Architecture and Planning, Anna University, where I did my bachelor's in architecture. I'm a registered architect, though I have not practiced much, but yes, I am thankful to all my teachers there and my professors and staff there. And of course, Industrial Design Center, all my professors and staff from Industrial Design Center, IIT Bombay, where I did my master's and PhD, who kind of opened up my mind and also introduced to me to the world of design, and which in fact kind of is as translated into this kind of works that I do. And it's my sincere thanks to all of them who kind of nurtured me over time and made me the person whom I am. And I'm also thankful to my friends and my parents and my brothers and sisters who have always been there and never questioned what I did, because they trusted me and believed in me. Whatever that I do will be for good, and will serve, will have a purpose. Yeah, so I'm thankful to all of them. Yeah, so that is it. So thank you so much, and finally thanks to God for all this that has happened. And yeah, thank you so much. With this, I kind of come to the end of the presentation. Yeah, if you have any questions or any queries, you can feel free to ask me. I'll be glad to answer.
Dear participant, if you have any kind of query, please.
I've just stopped my sharing, so if it is okay with you.
Sir, is there any activity in a sense?
Yeah, I also have something small task to do, but I thought if they have any questions, I'll take it and then I'll follow it up with the task.
Dear participant, if you have any kind of query, please ask.
Fine. So looks like they don't have any questions. So I'm glad. So then I'll just quickly then share the task, what is to be done, because we have very less time. I think we still have only 1 hour left. So is it okay if I kind of share the screen for the task?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, fine. Yeah. So I'll just quickly open up other slides so that it's just a small task. It's not like too much to do, just to get an idea of how you can implement this thing. So you see the screen available? Is it visible?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So let me also read out. So all you need to do is just design a water bottle. I know it is also related to manufacturing to a larger extent, and also to in terms of design and design thinking. So design a water bottle for a 6-year-old child. It could be a boy or a girl. That's up to you. And so basically what you have to do is reproduces basically your sketches and drawings, preferably on an unruled paper instead of having lines. So just like a plain paper or a sketchbook. And if you could briefly explain the concept or idea, then it will be nice. So we can just quickly discuss it and see how you apply design thinking into the process in coming up with a design of a water bottle. Yeah. So is this fine with you all? I wish it was physical, but nevertheless, still we can just try it out in the digital platform. Or is it a difficult task or something? I don't know the kind of audience that you have, but I thought I'd still go ahead with the plan. Hello?
Yes, sir. We just waiting for participants.
Oh, okay, fine. Oh, sorry. So if people have taken down, it's just a simple, just design a water bottle for a 6-year-old. So you can have a half an hour time, and then we'll come back probably at 1:30 and we'll quickly look at the sketches and discuss with it. Yeah.
Udaya sir.
Yes?
I think it's too difficult to design a bottle. Because we are from actually we are from mechanical engineering, and most of the faculties are from mechanical and other branches. They can design on software, but freehand design on the bottle, I think it's too difficult for us.
They can just simply give an outline of the bottle, whatever they think that comes. I'm sure it's just a simple sketches should be possible.
Okay.
If they find it difficult, then okay, that's all right. They can also describe it if they are okay with that. I'm sorry, I did not know the kind of participant that we have.
Yes, sir. Dear participant, अगर आपका डिजाइन पर सेलेक्ट करते हैं तो उसको एक अवार्ड दिया जाएगा हमारी तरफ से, प्लीज। यस सर, बेस्ट उसको हम डिजाइन को करें।
So you can feel free to use any medium, whichever that you think is best. You can just simply describe or showcase whatever that you do.
Okay, sir.
So we can discuss. It's just basically an exercise to understand how we think. Yeah, because I thought it was a design thinking exercise, the entire event. So I thought we should also put it into practice to understand it really well.
Okay. Dear participant, you have half an hour to design the water bottle, and after that, sir will discuss all the aspects of the bottle.
Yeah, whichever. If you ask questions, also I'm fine. I'll try to answer it. Whatever that I knew, I can share it. Fine then.
Yes, sir. Fine.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and then probably we'll meet at 1:30. Sorry.
1:25.
Yeah, Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah. Thank you then. So I'll just leave the meeting or I'll just leave it like this.
Hello.
Yeah. So I'll leave the meeting. I'll join back. Yeah. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for the participant to put you into such a task. I didn't know that you are all faculty in different subject areas.
No, sir. This session is about the unleashing the creativity.
Okay.
You have chosen a topic for. I think all are married and all. I have used this kind of bottles for feeding the milk to their children.
Thank you. Okay. Then thank you. Then hopefully they will do something. Let's see. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's past 2:25, as Udaya sir had mentioned. If anyone requires any more time, do let us know. And if anybody is ready, also please let us know accordingly.
It can be just an informal discussion. It doesn't have to be very formal or something, because we're just trying to understand how to design a water bottle. So it can be very generic. So if you have anything to show, please share it. Otherwise, we can keep it like what goes into designing a water bottle. We can just quickly discuss on that also, which is fine.
Let's wait for participants. If there is anybody.
Dear participant, if anyone wants to share something, please share. We will allow you.
Fine, if they don't have much, maybe they can also ask a question or something, what actually goes into designing a water bottle. Maybe I'll ask, so that we can just quickly discuss on that, which is also okay.
Sir, I have designed one bottle. I want to show that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Wait for a minute, sir.
Sir, I'd like to share my screen and I'll show as well.
Please go ahead. It's just like a fun exercise, not to worry too much. We're just going to discuss simply. Okay.
So this is the bottle that I have designed.
Oh, very nice.
It's not much, sir, but it's just the basic principle. A few factors that I was considering was, when you're talking about a water bottle, the basic utility of that thing is to hold or contain water. But when it comes to a 6-year-old, I don't think he or she might have that as a priority, right?
Correct.
So
yes.
So a couple of things that I have to look in the sort of a parent's perspective is that there should be an ease to drinking water. So I have designed a sipper over here, which will help the boy or girl to drink easily without dripping any water. And then there is a tie around it, or there is one extra feature that will allow it to keep that the child can carry the bottle around its neck. Also, keeping in part that since it is a child, I have also installed a game over here of Tic Tac, and just for fun, say in case these are all dispatchable characters, crosses and nuts, and they can be removed and played with anybody if the child wants to play with their friends. So it's just on top of my head, just something that I was floating.
Oh, very, very interesting. Thank you.
Sir, one more thing. We want to add on the milk consumption data as well as the age comparison outside in a packaging of this bottle.
Okay. Yeah. So now you can very clearly see that you already identified there is a difference between a regular water bottle and designing a bottle for a children, right? So these are the understanding that actually goes into designing the bottle. Yeah. And very likely said that, yeah, you want to have a very open mouth, so that you also have a zipper, and then these straps, so which are all by default gets added to the product. Unlike a regular water bottle, it does not have a strap most often. When an adult uses a water bottle, so this is just an additional element which goes into the bottle itself, so that they can carry around. Unlike an adult will carry, which is like a regular water bottle that we drink. So in terms of, even though there's both of them are water bottles, just like storing water, but depending on the users, the context, it completely changes the entire design of the product. Yeah. So while thinking, so you want to understand the user and keep the user in mind, and then start designing your product. So this is a very good example and very nicely done. So now we can very much relate. So how these additional elements have come into the design. Yeah. just by understanding the user and how they're going to use it. Yeah. And it is also interesting to see the tic tac which you have put in. So you said it is just came out of top of your mind, but why is it that you felt that this has to go into the bottle?
So for a child, it might not, the simple bottles, either what they will look into is they'll look into their favorite cartoons, or I think in that would be a customized one. But since you gave me a question of boy and girl or girl, making it into a gender neutral bottle, so I had to think of some way to attract the child towards this bottle. So
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that can happen. Was either I can install a small some sort of a punch inside the die that like it has a smiley face or it has a star, but then that is again might be harmful for the water, and there are several factors. So the most simplest thing that I could think of was with this, since it is a very open game and anybody can actually play even at a very intermediate level. So I explored into this particular option.
Yeah, it is indeed a very novel idea. It's a very nicely incorporated, and I think it's very nice. The only thought, again, just as a suggestion, would be now the idea is great. Yeah, trying to put a tic tac onto the bottle so that there is a lot more function, more usage other than just drinking of water. Yeah. So now we will go one step further, trying to understand how to implement this very effectively. Yeah. So if you typically look at the bottle, I assume it is a round bottle. Yeah, it should. I'm assuming it is going to be a cylindrical bottle, right?
So that would be the tough part, to build a cylindrical. What I was thinking the body to be some sort of a rectangular or with some sort of rectangular or square shaped, and then keeping the top of portion of it circular. Because otherwise for a circular surface, this won't fit.
Correct. Yeah. So now when you have a circular and a square surface, so we don't have a cuboidal water bottle. Of course, we do have, but typically we don't find it. We have with the kids, hardly we find it. It's a very cylindrical in nature, right?
Yes, but those in previous times when I was a kid, I used to have those really large bottles hung around my neck. That had a very large surface area around one side. So in those cases, those bottles, it was possible. But another factor is that most probably it's a 6-year-old kid. He will 99% he might actually lose these pieces.
Okay. So what if I suggest if it is on the top of the bottle instead of on the sides of the bottle? Yeah. Doesn't it become a lot more appropriate and a lot more easier to play as well? If it is just you have a very big bottle and then you have even whether it's a circle or a square, it will still fit in, right?
Yes,
on the cap.
Definitely. Yes, so that is a better solution.
Yeah, and then it can also have a solution to make a storage for the pieces also in the cap itself, certainly, so that people can play looking at it and top of it, right? So
Yes,
this kind of exploration is multidimensional exploration will help you. Of course, I really appreciate this idea. I'm just suggesting, so the better ways to kind of improve this design and make it actually could be marketable, So if you can think in those lines, laterally, and see how best you can incorporate these ideas. So very good. I really appreciate the thought and also trying to put it up, making a sketch and doing it. Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So this is what we want to kind of look at it and discuss. So there is so many things goes into thinking. Designing a product. Especially when you design for a kids, it's not just like designing for an adult. It's completely a different aspect. Both in terms of the materials, the products, the form of the products, the usage, because their hands are very small, because their human dimensions are different, and also their psychology is different, and the way they use the product is different. So understanding all of these things will kind of help you to refine your design. At the same time, your design, you should also look at the manufacturing process, because the kind of materials that you're going to use, the form also depends on the manufacturing process. Not all things might be possible, though you can make it, whether it is safe for children, So safety is a concern, and also the durability is a concern, right? Because people they just keep throwing the bottles and they use it like anything. No, there's no set base there, so they'll roughly use it, and it has to withstand. I remember my daughter breaking almost 3-4 bottles. Every time we just buy, she just simply throw on the floor, on the, she doesn't matter what floor, the concrete or mud, or she'll keep throwing and playing just like a ball. Yeah, but the bottle, most of the bottles, they are very sturdy and they withstand. Yeah, so that's where again manufacturing, the design, the detailing, and all those things goes into. Yeah, so any design kind of has to have this multiple ways of thinking, yeah, from various point of view, especially from the user's point of view. Yeah, I'm sure in the coming days you will have a lot more lectures by various design experts, experts who are into design thinking, and they will definitely help you how to incorporate design thinking into your own process in your own field. Yeah, so these are some aspects I thought I should kind of share. Yeah, if you had done a design, it would have been easier to kind of explain a little more. But nevertheless, but I hope you got the point that designing anything is not so easy. It's very difficult. So a lot of thoughts goes into designing it, whether it's a product or a visual design or any communication design, just like I showed you a presentation. But as a user, it might find like, okay, it's very simple. But that's the objective of a designer. Yeah, you have to provide something which is easier and simpler for the user. You as a designer or the maker or creator should go through all this process. Yeah, try to address the complex issues and context in which you are designing. Yeah, and try to overcome and solve it. As a user, you should feel like, okay, there's nothing much, it's just very easy and convenient to use the product. That is subjective. Yeah, so there is two different perspectives. I hope I'm making myself clear. Yeah, is that understandable?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, any design undergoes these kind of challenges, and there's so much of rigor if it is a good design. Yeah, there are products that people just simply don't think of anything, they'll just do it whatever comes into the mind. But any good designer will definitely take care of the user and the context in which he is designing, and the kind of product he is designing, and also what all things has to go in terms of details, and also additional features like Thomas has actually very nicely created this tic-tac-toe on the bottle, which is a very novel idea. I'm sure it will attract the kids. Yeah, so people will pick it up. Yeah, so and after designing, and also then you need to take care of your manufacturing process, how to really kind of make the product, and finally the challenge comes is selling the product. Yeah, whether why would a child will buy your design when there is so much of competition and there's so many water bottles? How come a parents will choose this? A parent or a child who goes to a shop will choose your design? And that's where you need to kind of bring in these additional things. Yeah, something which is very attractable, which people could take it up and enjoy it, and which they feel like very easy and convenient to use. Yeah, so these are challenges we often face. Yeah, so again, marketing, and after that marketing also using the product and trying to retain the customer is also very challenging. Maybe first time they will buy your water bottle, and if it does not work well, we all as a parent, we have all experienced, right? When any product that we buy, first time we will use it. If you like it, we will buy it again. If you don't like it, we will not go for it again, right? But as a designer, as a product brand, so you want to kind of sell it again and again, and you want more people to buy, and you also want people to buy it again and again. The same person, you want them to buy it again. Why would they do it? Yeah. So again, that's where the design and what goes into thinking of those things. Yeah. How to ensure that your user is going to buy your product again. So you should also kind of think broadly into them in those aspects also. It is not just fulfilling a function. Yeah? If you have to fulfill a function, you simply design a container that will hold the water and which could be used for drinking, right? So that's it. That is done. But that is not how design works, at least as a designer, and that's what we teach to students. Yeah, it's more than that. It is beyond just fulfilling the functionality of the product. Yeah, just like storing a water and making the product to drink or fill and refill and so on and so forth. Yeah, that is not just the objective. You as a designer has to question, start thinking, go beyond what is obvious, and then try to address those issues through your extensive study and research. Yeah? this is what I believe through design thinking is what we do. We do iterate, we kind of go again and again, try to kind of refine the product based on the user study, user understanding, and also trying to make a prototype and trying to get it sorted out, all the initial hiccups that you have in a product, and then coming up with the final one that will kind of take care of most of the issues. Yeah. So that is why this design thinking is very essential. It's now been everywhere, and I'm sure you will keep this in mind. Hopefully, it will be helpful for you also in your own work, even in your teaching. So it can be applied in any context, not necessarily a product design or any communication design, but in your teaching exercise also, you can just kind of think of your students and broadly think of how you can apply this design thinking in making your own presentations or making your own content communicable and making people understand, the students understand, or even designing your own assignments and also giving them the critique or your question papers. So everywhere, I think if you have this kind of basic understanding should help you, and you should start nurturing your ideas and further develop on this direction, yeah, in terms of design thinking itself. Yeah. I hope I was able to help you with to certain extent, yeah, to provide some information. Of course, I'm also practicing. I'm also learning along with you people. It's not that I know everything, but yeah, I'm very much eager to learn from you as well, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity sometime in the future.
Sir, a colleague of mine has also designed a bottle and he would like to share it.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, sir. He has sent it to me. I am sharing my screen. So, Mr. Pratik Mittal?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please go ahead. You explain your idea.
Yeah, actually, this bottle consists of two sections. One is the food section and the other one is the water section. And top down, it can be inverted. And we have put a sand timer, which is very playful for the small kids, and a mesh game where this ball has to be put in the right slot. And this can be a very good fun activity for the kids while they enjoy their lunch.
Yeah, very nice. Very interesting idea of this sand and timer. How did this idea come to you? This sand.
Actually, I was just, I started to draw it and it spontaneously came to me.
Yeah, very good. So that is why sketching actually helps. Yeah. So that is the reason why I wanted you to kind of put it onto the paper, because when you do your sketching, lot more thoughts comes into you and you may want to kind of express that through your sketches and see how best you can use them. Yeah. So there are methods how you want to kind of implement your ideas, and sketching is one of the means. I strongly believe in that. So very nice, Dr. Pratik. So very good, great design, and yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate. You have any questions or anything? This is also fine. I'm just there. So.
Dear participant, is there any query?
Yeah. Fine. So I think hopefully you can think of it later also. Now I hope you. Yes. Sorry.
Sir, our topic is creating the unleashing the creativity. Can we use this concept in education system also while taking the classes?
Of course, why not? I often try to implement as much as possible. So
can you explore, sir?
Yes, you can explore. Say, for example, at least I try to kind of make my classes as much as possible. It's not like I do it every time. So try to be creative in my conduct of classes, and especially in terms of the examination. Yeah. So instead of just giving the students a regular question paper and questions and question paper, so I kind of redesign my own questions. Yeah. So I create. At least I try to do it as much as possible. Try to create unique questions, which are fun and which are at the same time delivers the point. Yeah. And also ensures that they kind of understand the concept right. Yeah. So, and I do not want to see this examination as just like fulfilling the criteria in terms of evaluation and giving them the marks, but it has to go beyond it. Yeah. So it is not just the responsibility of the student, but also the responsibility of the teacher. How do you ensure that how do you put in your creativity into your question paper? So this, what it does is, it kind of changes the students' perspective. So then they believe, then they will start thinking and looking at you, because you are also applying what you are teaching, yeah, into your own work, into your own question paper, yeah. When they see it, they become a little more enthusiastic and they want to participate in it. Instead of just having a dry question paper, just like 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. But if it is goes beyond it, then they kind of really understand you are a person who not only teaches, you also practice, yeah. So if I have to teach creativity, I should also be creative in every nature, every aspect as much as possible. I'm not saying that you have to change yourself completely, but I'm just suggesting these are just ideas which I'm throwing upon to you so that you can think. Yeah, I'm not asking you have to compulsorily kind of follow up onto this, but think, just open up your mind. Yeah, even setting up your question paper, just try to do it differently next time and see what is the reaction of the students. I'm sure it will be encouraging for you, and it will be challenging for you also to set that, and it will also help you to kind of grow beyond what is conventionally you've been doing all this while. Yeah, so that's where the creativity can be expressed and also applied. Yeah, there are various contexts. I'm just giving you one example where it can be implemented in teaching. So setting up your own examination papers, maybe next time try it differently than conventionally, then see your students effect. Of course, it will also kind of go other way around also, unless you kind of do a very good, come up with a very creatively designed paper. Yeah, so does that answer your query? Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of my colleague write a message to me that how we use the creativity in BTL, जो Bloom taxonomy level. They just want to know about the how we use creativity in BTL and where we have to put the BTL level while
Okay.
writing the questions.
I'm not so sure about it because I'm not into that. I only feel creativity. I don't see personally for me. I don't see creativity from external point of view. I see it from internal point of view, and there's a big difference. Yeah, it is a big difference in terms of the point of view. In the sense, I wanted to feel. I wanted to express my creativity because I believe I have the creative abilities and I want to express it. On what context and where, whether it will help in this place and that place, probably depends on context and how I think. Yeah, whether in the other, I don't know whether I'm able to answer that question, but this is how I see it. So I'm not so sure. Yeah. So may know who asked the question, and is it okay for them what I'm trying to explain?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The different contexts might demand certain things. So you need to understand for where and for whom you are doing it. But mostly I try to see if I'm involved in certain things, I try to apply my own abilities. That is what I was trying to communicate.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So yeah, I don't have answers to all questions, but I'll try. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No one is back.
Sorry?
I think
Absolutely fine. It's the best of what we have, right? It's okay, sir.
Thank you.
So, any participants, if there are any other queries, please ask. Okay, sir. Yeah, it seems like we do not have any more questions. Sir, do you have any finishing statements, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me for this session. And I'm always delighted to present on the rupee symbol. There are a lot of people who are kind of curious to know about it, though most of them already familiar with the presentation. But yeah, anyway, thanks to having me here. And also I could see two good ideas which has come, which I also have not thought about, which is again, it's a takeaway for me in a sense. So to kind of think of incorporating such kind of interesting ideas into the conventional products. Yeah. So thank you so much. And thanks for having me. And I wish you all the very best. I'm sure in the next coming few days, you will have a lot more to learn. I'm assuming there will be a lot more bigger experts that are coming there, coming to give talks and lectures. So Wish you all the best. Yeah, we hope we can keep in touch. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you, sir. So it was actually a great honor having you over here for our faculty development program. I myself was very much into this entire story of how the rupee symbol was actually designed, and I was always curious where, because I understood the fact that the letter R and the Hindi akshar R, I understood those facts, but the line in between was always a mystery to me. So that, and you showed it today to be our flag, and it was such a good moment for me to understand and to realize what important that symbol really is. So it's a great honor to have you, sir, and we are actually very much glad.
Thank you.
We are very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, so enjoyed it. Thank you.
And all the participants kindly note that your feedback link for the session by Udaya Kumar sir is in your chat box right now. Kindly fill it, and we will be meeting again within the next 10 to 15 minutes at exactly, let's say, at 3:10. Okay, 3:10 p.m. We'll meet again for our next session. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Thank you, sir.
thank you. So I will take a leave. So wish you all the best for the rest of the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye, and all the
Bye.
best to all of you. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Was to keep folder and everything of the homework and assignments, so it is like everything in one place, so
Yeah.
that kind of helps.
Now
Okay.
everything is fine, na, ma'am, at IIT Roorkee.
Yeah, everything is fine now.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we have started calling back a few students also.
Okay.
Some research scholars are coming back who have got both the doses. So
Okay.
yeah, slowly we are in the process of calling back the students. Okay, so shall I leave the meeting or shall I stay and wait?
Ma'am, it's up to you. It's up to you. We will start by 3:15.
Okay, then maybe I will just stay logged in and
Yeah.
Hannah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, one and all. So we are now into our third session for the day for the faculty development program. So I would like to welcome Dr. Sonal Aetraya. Dr. Sonal is currently working as an assistant professor at the Department of Architecture and Planning at IIT Roorkee. Ma'am has completed her master's as well as a PhD from IIT Delhi. Ma'am has several publications in international journals and books in the areas of design. And she will be briefing all the participants on creative versus design solutions. Thank you, ma'am, for sparing your time for our program. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Rajendra, for your kind invitation and also for this introduction. And I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the area which is very close to me, which is creativity and design. We can also call it as design innovation. And I will be taking you all through certain examples and keeping in mind that the group here is kind of from various backgrounds. So I have mostly brought examples from our daily lives so we can identify with those. And then towards the end, we'll also see the design process a little bit with the examples, with the help of some examples. And so I will just share my screen. So at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. Don't, I would say, don't wait for me to end the presentation because it will keep it a little bit interactive. So just jump in at any time. So the topic is very interesting, which is creativity versus design, and we will see how and where these two converge and diverge, and whether these two terms have any kind of an interrelationship and whether they depend on each other or not. And so we will see with some examples, like I said. So this is an iPhone, and we are all probably very familiar with this iPhone, and some of us maybe also own one of these models. So on the right is the one which came out early on around 2000, 2007.
Excuse
And
me, ma'am.
yeah,
Ma'am, I think it would be better if you go to the slideshow because I think it's still in the small view and we cannot. Ma'am.
I'm sorry, you're not able to see my screen?
No, ma'am, I'm able to stream. I'm just suggesting if you could go into the slideshow mode.
I was in the slideshow mode only.
No, ma'am, it was in the normal mode actually.
Normal as in?
The normal layout, ma'am, the normal layout where I could see your slides, the next slides as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you could see the left bar.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm not sure because I am making it full screen.
Ma'am,
And
bottom right side slideshow.
yeah, I clicked on the slideshow only.
Okay.
Yeah, I made it full screen. Like I'm clicking on this full screen.
Okay, ma'am. Then I don't. It must be a technical issue.
Okay, so you're seeing the ribbon on the left side, the all the slides.
Yes, ma'am. I am able to see all the slides 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on
Oh,
the
but
right
I
left
am
side.
actually I'm able to see the whole screen. I don't know how to fix it. But is the screen visible? The main screen? The bigger screen, is that visible?
Actually, there's a small lag. I think, ma'am, because you were on the first slide, you were talking about the second slide. Yeah, ma'am. I think this would be fine. Hopefully.
Maybe this will, I guess, help a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is this better?
Yes, ma'am. Could you just rotate between the first slide and the second slide, ma'am?
This is the first slide, and this is the second slide.
Ma'am, I'm just seeing the phones. I haven't seen the first slide yet.
What about now?
No, ma'am, still seeing the phones. There's a small delay, ma'am, actually. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. Let me, okay, give me 1 second. Okay, let me just
You can,
stop
ma'am.
sharing and then I will share again.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Try resharing, ma'am.
yeah. 1 second. Okay, 1 second.
Ma'am, second slide. Yeah.
Okay, is this working?
Now, I think, ma'am, next slide कीजिएगा एक बार.
Next किया मैंने अभी.
नहीं, आपकी वही फर्स्ट स्लाइड ही शो हो रही है.
अब कौन सा दिख रहा है आपको?
ये एप्पल का मोबाइल दिखाई दे रहा है मैम.
अभी तक वही दिख रहा है.
या
अच्छा.
अब
अभी
आप,
कैन यू सी?
अभी उससे
अब
पहले अब आ गया सर. सिमोन वाला पर्सनल वाला. यस. अब नाउ गुड डिजाइन मेक्स ए क्रिएटिविटी डिजाइन.
लेकिन आई डोंट नो. मैं तो फुल ये देखिए राइट में मैंने क्लिक किया.
Yes.
तो नाउ वी आर ऑन दिस. बट नाउ आई एम क्लिकिंग नेक्स्ट. अब दिख रहा है आपको?
नो मैम, अभी वही है, क्रिएटिविटी वाला ही है.
ओहो, आई एम तो मूविंग फॉरवर्ड. I don't know. Should I try sharing my entire screen? Will that help?
यस मैम, आप ऐसे ही कर लीजिए.
मैं पूरा स्क्रीन शेयर करती हूँ. I was sharing my PPT. Let me, maybe that will make it a bit faster.
या
1 second. Let me go to first slide. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
यस मैम.
Now this PPT and
Yes,
now
ma'am.
is it moving?
Yes ma'am, now it is moving.
Okay. Yeah, maybe and sharing the entire screen helps. Okay, so I was on this slide wherein I was talking about the iPhone, that how some of us probably own the iPhone, and why this particular phone is such a coveted phone. We have so many models of phones nowadays around us, but why is it that since the beginning when this phone was launched, it became a hot favorite? Of course, I mean, not everybody could afford it, and only one segment could, but slowly over time we can see that more and more people are going for this Apple version. And Apple is also coming up with almost every year with a new model, because it is selling like hotcakes. So what is so special? What makes this phone really special, and which makes it stand out amongst the other phones that we have around us? So is it the beauty factor here? Is it how nice it looks? Or is it the cost factor, that because it is so expensive we want this expensive phone? Is it the status issue, that anyone who owns a Apple iPhone has a certain status? So, and there could be many other reasons as well. My friend has, so I also want. So, but what is it that Apple iPhone stands apart from any other brand of phones that we have? Now, what has gone into creating this interesting phone? What has gone into creating this really amazing phone that all of us admire? So now, it is not the fact that it has three things rolled in it. Like, one is the phone itself, where we can call people, message people, or including the iPod, which basically is the music, that now we can also listen to music on the go, or that it has a browser that we can browse, because all of the other phones have it. So it is not these three broad things that make it special, but because it is a phone which has over time in the design process, when they were coming up with this particular model, they have features and functions, and they have a wonderful interactive experience that it gives to the user. It has nicely synchronized graphics, The touch screen never fails. The packaging is really good, really stands out, really speaks about what the content is inside, and the customer service is of the highest level. So all of this gives, or this experience enables the user to achieve their goal, which is of the highest optimum level. I hope the next slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the Simon personal communicator. Now, probably not many of us have seen this or are aware of this. This particular model came out in 1994, so much before, over 10 years before the Apple phone came into the market. And it was the first personal digital assistance, or PDA, which included the telephone features. Now we can see here also that it has a screen almost like a touch screen that we see nowadays, and it has various features here, right? However, there were some downsides to this particular phone. For example, the battery did not last very long, and it had to be recharged again. And slowly, around this time, the flip phones, they came into the market, and they were smaller and lighter and more stylish. And the Simon phone actually did not sell that much, and the other phones were slimmer also. So although this was much ahead of its time, because it not only had the calling feature, but it also had the calendar, address book, notepad, and many other applications. So why is it that this particular product did not really sustain in the market as compared to the ever increasing, breed of iPhone, which is every year adding some new feature, which may be a little bit, additional, but still it is not stopping from users from buying it. So some level of creativity that has gone into the iPhone as compared to this PDA. Now, it was very innovative in its time. It had innovative technology. But when it comes to the level of creativity that was there in this phone, probably it was lacking. So, and we will see that, can we really even differentiate these two terms, creativity and design? So we can say that when we compare, we can probably say that the design of this is not that good. I don't like this design of this Simon personal communicator, but I like the design of iPhone. So that is maybe a general statement that we will give when we are comparing these two phones. But design is not just what it is appearing to us visually, but it is a process which has also included a lot of creativity inside of it, because of which we now have this particular phone. So maybe we can say that when we say iPhone is a good phone, of course it is also very functional, because as compared to the PD that we saw, holding it, it is bulky, it is big, it probably has an antenna which needs to be pulled out. Here, there is no such thing. Just press a button and you are good to go. So this phone is functional. And if we see from the perspective of functions, to be honest, iPhone does not really offer much in terms of functions as compared to the other phones that we have, other phones that we have in the market. But still, I mean, it does not lack anywhere in the functions. It is aesthetic, which is, it is pleasing to the eye. It is very clean edges, very simple form, very minimalistic. There are no features which actually stand out that much. Simple sleek form, it has one single pane of glass, touch screen, simple buttons symmetrically placed, and right where the fingers would be. So very ergonomic. The psychological factor we have already discussed a little bit, that it kind of gives us that feeling of owning of an iPhone, which itself is, it's only a feeling, but still we feel we own something very special. And producibility, which is how easily can we produce a particular item. So now if we see this, in all this discussion that we are having, you would notice that the marketability of the product is very important, and that actually makes the design process very complex. So we are talking about a couple of things here: good design and design innovation. So we are throwing in a mix of several terms here, which more or less talk about the same thing, but we will be kind of dissecting them further to really understand them better. So this design process that has been made very complex now because of this marketability of factor of the product, because ultimately the companies, what do they want? They want the product to be sold. They want that the product should get a further reach, and more people should prefer their product over the other company's product, because it is a constant competition, and this can make or break a company. So we all are we know this company Nokia very well, that used to dominate the market till a few years back or a decade or so back, and almost everybody had a Nokia phone, including me, because it was durable, it was reliable, it would not break, it would function. And now Nokia is kind of forgotten in the area of phones. So where did really Nokia go wrong? So uh, now another important term that is coming out here is user needs. So Nokia was not really responsive to the user needs. So users' needs keep on changing over time. As our life is changing, we are getting new challenges. Our needs will keep on changing, and the companies or the team of designers who are working in that company need to keep on working to fulfill that need, because now my need is something else from what it was 10 years ago. So they were not considering the user needs and did not change as per the market requirements. So user need is a complete area, and we will take a look at some user needs also towards the end when I will discuss a few design examples, the whole process of design. But this is most important when it comes to designing any product. And the product is bound to fail if it is not incorporated in the design process itself. So user needs is the primary important thing, and Nokia was very comfortable where it was, and they felt that they would not be moved from this throne, but it was not so, and they did not update to Android. They basically a lot of things went wrong. The software update did not go as per the trends. So a lot of things went wrong with Nokia. Similarly, another example from daily life I'll give you is of Maggie. So Maggie was doing very well in 1995, 96. It was doing very well in the market and dominating the noodle or 2-minute noodle market. And around 97, a top ramen brand came into the market, and they had a different flavor. So Nestle kind of got a little bit threatened by this new company, and they changed their flavor. So the whole formulation they changed, and now the masala was different. The even the design of the Maggi noodle was a little different, and this was rejected by the consumers because they were used to the previous design of Maggi, the taste of Maggi, texture of Maggi that was there. So I don't know whether any of you remember this change, but I remember it very well because some Maggie representatives had come to my house when I was a kid, and they were taking a questionnaire that what we like about Maggie, what we would want to change about Maggie, and it was the same time when Maggie had changed itself, and actually we also were feeling that there is some difference in this. So uh, later they went back to their uh, original style, and then it was again back where it was. So we can see that these two companies, giant of a companies, that how still user is the ultimate boss. no matter how big a company is, the user ultimately rules whether the company is successful or whether it fails. So now these two terms, creativity and design, and I am here using in brackets innovation, and I will be interchangeably using design or design innovation. It will mean the same thing basically. So I will talk about the design innovation part first, that when we are talking or when we consider design, the term design or design innovation, this process actually consists of two main activities itself. So the first activity is creativity, and the second activity is innovation. So design is made up of actually these two terms, creativity and innovation. So what is creativity? There are many definitions available on the internet if you would like to see. I am just going to be talking about very basic, in basic language, so we all understand that creativity is about tapping the potential of the mind to conceive new ideas. Idea is something that if we don't have, there is no hope or chance of growth. And there are many companies, big companies, that hire employees and pay employees millions and millions just so that they can come up with ideas. So idea is something that not everybody can come up with. So that is where the creativity is very important, this term creativity, because it is about the idea generation, that how do we come up with new ideas from our brain, how do we tap that energy and come up with ideas. Now we can take a few examples, like from our daily life also we can see that a person can be very creative in their daily life. So how he plans his day, how he has a timetable, a schedule for himself, so his day is very productive, or so that uh, all his activities are synchronized. He has certain goals that he finishes, or his or her workspace may be organized in such a way that everything that he or she requires is within reach and saves time, or he can tastefully decorate his home. Now, there is an underlying factor here, which is kind of invisible, because there can be two people doing the same thing in different ways, but still being creative in their own ways. Now, what is this invisible underlying thing? It is, it comes from our background, it comes from our exposure, it also has a bit of our upbringing, or where we are from, as in it could also be from which state am I from, what has been my learning over time. Now, one interesting thing is that we can visually see the creativity, or we can feel the benefits of this person being creative, but it will be very, very difficult and almost impossible for us to measure this creativity on a scale, because like I said, two different people coming from different backgrounds or coming from different levels of exposure might do the same thing in two different ways. Now, how do we measure it? So it is very difficult to measure that level of creativity. So creativity is something that is immeasurable, that we are not able to measure next to a scale. But design or innovation or design innovation is something that is completely measurable. We can completely measure it. That is where these two things are very different. These two terms are very different. And how do we measure design or design innovation or innovation? So it is in terms of many things. Now, one could be in terms of the revenue it generates. How much is this generating revenue as compared to Y, X and Y? Or what percentage of people are preferring X and what percentage of people are preferring Y? So we can get that in terms of numbers, percentage. value, but creativity really has no such value system attached to it. So now creativity basically involves the production or generation of novel and useful ideas. And design innovation is the implementation of these ideas into the new products or processes. So we can see that both are incomplete without the other. So rather than versus, they're actually and. So that is very interesting. That although these two things are very separate, very different, one is measurable, one immeasurable, but alone they cannot work, because if one is creative, very, very creative, coming up with good ideas, but if that idea is not been able to implement itself into something useful, then that creativity really has no value. And on the other hand, if we have a design but which is lacking creativity, then that design really has no value. So these terms, there's a difference also, and there is something at some point where they really need to converge also to come up with something at the end which is really beautiful and useful for us. So let us take a few examples. Now, this is an example of earphones. Now, earphones come in many different shapes and sizes and designs, and but basically they have these earbuds which we insert in the ears, and they have a wire. Now, here, in a very interesting manner, this is a packaging wherein they have uh, now earphones. Usually, I mean, we use them for talking with people, many other purposes they serve, but mainly uh, initially when they came up in the market, when there were no cell phones and there was no way to talk on the phone with earphones, then they were mainly used for music, for listening to music, radio and CDs and tape recorders. So, and they have very creatively, this person has taken the existing technology, existing design, and they have put them in such a way that now it denotes a musical note, and the name of the company is also note. So this is a very creative way of packaging a particular technology that is existing. This is another small example of a little tub of butter. So if some of you have traveled on Shatabdi or any other train, so they usually provide a small rectangular tub of butter, and it has a foil or a plastic cover on top that we have to peel in order to extract the contents. Sometimes it gets very difficult to extract because there is no spoon, and so we have to take the help of the either a cutlery which has been given, or if it is not, then with the help of bread or roti, we try and extract it and then use it. And here they have used a very innovative cover, that so the tub itself has changed its form because they wanted to provide a kind of a cover that would also act like a spoon, so that they could now retrieve this butter efficiently and apply it on the bread. So the butter is there, but now the whole packaging has been modified because a rectangular cover of the same material will not work, because a rectangular piece of cardboard will not be able to help us take out the butter efficiently. So some level of creativity has gone into it, and some level of innovation wherein they had to come up with material choice, the process of how this tub would be manufactured, how the spoon would be given its shape. This is another example of how they have integrated. Now, there are certain products or certain designs that we see which are, completely innovative. Like iPhone was a completely something that we had never seen before. Now, that is one level of design. But now, if you see, over time, they are just changing and modifying the design. So it is going through a generative process over the years. And there's another process wherein we kind of keep on improving upon the same. So here in this particular example, we can see that they have combined a chair and a rocking chair and also a light. So now, depending on the need of the user, so who wants to sit comfortably on an ergonomic chair, which is comfortable to sit on, one can read here, and there is light also, provision of light on top, and the chair also rocks. And at the same time, the frame of the whole chair is very aesthetic to look at. It's not like that grandfather chair with those big rocking legs and the big armrests, but it has been converted into something more sleek and something a little more pleasing to the eye. This is another example of cheese. So we use cheese, and usually we either cut it and put it on our pizza or wherever. Uh, Now this is a product or the modification that they probably have come up with, because when we are grating the cheese, it requires another additional product to grate it on, and then it sticks on that grater. There might be several other problems while doing it that way. So they thought that why don't we change the shape of the cheese itself, because cheese is a material which can easily take any shape. So why not make it into a pencil? Now, pencil or a pen is a product that is already existing, right? And here what they, uh, hello, okay. So here what they have done is they have molded the cheese in the form of the pencil or a pen, and they have provided a sharpener, and you now easily just sharpen the cheese and you lay it on your food. So now the number of steps of using this cheese and number of items have been reduced. Plus, it also gives that, factor of interest, because it's interesting to take cheese, and it might appear to your guests that you are sharpening a pencil, and they might kind of get worried, but it is, hey, it is cheese, it's not pencil. So it also adds that level of conversation or interest. So we are talking about creativity. Now, I'm showing you this particular slide, which is a website. Now, can any of you read anything here? Is anybody able to read anything on this slide? Okay, I guess
Barely,
not.
ma'am.
Yeah, I guess not, because even I can't read it. So we can see that they have tried to be very creative. They have all these nice graphics. They have some child here, a lot of interesting things, and they have tried to be very creative in terms of using all these colors. But creativity they have tried to apply, but where is the usability factor? How is this website of any use to anyone when we are not even able to understand what they are trying to communicate? So something is not right here. So the creativity is there, but it has not been tapped to its potential. There is a big gap between this person's creative skill and the application of it. And this creativity and design, I'm just showing this example because it is not only restricted to a physical product, but it also extends to everything that we see around us, including the websites and our apps that we communicate with. So they are also products, because the user is interacting with them, and the user spends a lot of time browsing, and especially during these COVID times, a lot of time is spent on all these websites, buying things or conducting classes. All of you are also faculty members, so you're also communicating with these websites, Zoom, WebEx, Teams, and so we can compare within these only that which one is more user friendly, which one allows us to get in touch with our students more efficiently. Or when we go to a website, are we frustrated because we can't find something? I want to contact the customer care, but I'm not able to identify or locate that particular button. So how do I convey my problem to the customer care? So So these things, the level of creativity or the poor design, as we can put it together, it is not only in physical but also here, because they put a lot of cognitive load on us. They put a lot of mental load, whether the product is poorly designed or whether this product which is on the screen in front of us, they both give us the same amount of frustration at the end of the day. uh, Going in the same direction, this is another example of another website. And here they have listed, you can see a number of products. And there is a cycle also, there is a car also, there is a tank. There is a tank also here at the bottom, and a aeroplane or some kind. So everything under the sun is here on this website, on this page. Now, how does a user navigate? How does a user compare? I'm looking for a cycle. What do I do with the truck? How do I compare my cycles? The cost, the company, the features, because I have so much of extra information here which I don't need. So one maybe has tried to be very creative here, but unfortunately it has not really worked. So continuing, another very important factor when it comes to a product being successful or being or faring very poorly in the market, I would say, is also the timing. Now, this is on the left is Microsoft Zune, on the right is the iPod. They both have similar features. Microsoft Zune was also targeted for young population who listen to music, but they were a little bit late. So iPod came in 2001 and Zune came out in 2006. So this 5 years of gap in pushing their product into the market really costed Microsoft very heavily, because this product never took off. So the timing also becomes very, very important. So now let us take a look at some of the definitions of design, because now we are familiar that design is a process which involves the user feedback, and it also involves a high level of creativity is required here, and some level of innovation is required here. So now there are some definitions here in front of you, and they are spanning over times from 1965. They are the, actually these people are the initial few people who came up with this whole design thinking process, who really immersed themselves in understanding what is design and how to design. And I think in the morning, you probably have had a session on design thinking. So you are a little bit equipped with the understanding or background of what is design thinking. So here we can see that all these definitions are very different. So there are like 5, 6 authors here, and we have the same number of definitions here. But all of them are saying something. I mean, you are reading it. I will not read them out, but they're talking about something. They're not talking about any final thing, but they're talking about what is required. They're talking about the ingredients. So they are not talking about the final dish. They're not talking about the final item, pasta or our pizza, but they're talking about we need capsicum, we need chili. They're talking about what will go into it. So that is very interesting. Now, design methods, we will see some examples of design methods also, which are some methods that we use in the process of design thinking. And these methods came about in the developed world, because design term or design thinking, all these terms actually originated in the West, and they reached India much, much later. So in 1950s, 1960s, engineers, architects, all of them were producing the drawings that their clients needed, and also for manufacturers who would actually ultimately manufacture these products. But so now the process was happening. It was going on fine. That client is saying something, the designer is providing him with that. But later, things became a little different. The process became a little different because there was requirement of new methods to produce that work, because there was certain criticism that was there for the traditional methods, because they were not able to isolate the essence of designing. So a particular process was taking place, but what was happening inside that process was not very transparent. So that was the reason why there was some criticism about how this design process is. And then there were these talks about how the design process needs a little bit of a change in it to be a little bit more effective. And by early 1980s, design became a profession, because earlier design was being practiced by architects and engineers. But by 1980s, we had designers, this whole breed of designers, and the design thinking term came about, and which talked about empathizing with the user needs. And they were still trying to understand those. Now it's interesting how even in 1980s, all these researchers, although they are understanding all these things, but it is still interesting to note that even in 1980s, they were still learning about user needs. And there are so many examples which tell us that those user needs at that time were not identified. So it has taken us quite a long time to really uh, be able to understand what the user needs and how to really understand that need. How do we observe that need? So uh, now, okay, I will just move. I will show some examples. Now, for basically what we are discussing now, to put our thoughts and to understand it a little better, let us look at the process. So maybe then we can have a few examples and we can understand this process also a little bit better. So if we look outside the process and we try to define the process of design by the end results, now we can see there is a chain happening here, and this is the end of the chain, the consumer. But when this chain begins, it begins with the wish of the sponsor, the person who is sponsoring a particular activity or a particular, uh, you know, putting a new thing in the market. So it starts with the sponsor's wish, then it moves through certain actions by the designer, then by the manufacturer, by the distributor, and finally the consumer, and then it reaches the whole world. Then the whole world gets to see that particular product. Now, if this new design that has come up into this world now, if it is successful, if it is a good product, then it brings a change, and that change would be something that the sponsor had wished for. So we can take an example here of, say, a tried and tested car, say Maruti Alto. Now it was, somebody envisioned it, that we should have a car which should be for this particular segment of the population, which should be of this much cost, which should have these many features. And for decades and decades, we can see that Maruti 800 or Maruti Alto has been doing so well as a model. It has been a really successful model. On the other hand, if the design is unsuccessful, then the final result is not what was expected by the sponsor, but it will still bring some change. So whether it is good design and it is successful, it will bring a change. If it is unsuccessful and poor design, it will still bring some change. For example, maybe not the perfect example, but just for the sake of comparing, we can talk about Tata Nano. Now, it started with a very noble thought that it would be that every person could afford 1 lakh car. So now no family would be deprived of traveling together. And to some extent, it has been very successful, but maybe not so much. There were some incidents where it was catching fire. The engine had to be, the positioning had to be changed because of a lot of reasons, a lot of decisions had to be taken because mainly the cost had to be brought down. And so some design changes were taken, so which kind of deemed the car a little bit unsafe, maybe. So it was not really that loved as compared to, say, the Maruti Alto. But still, we have learned a lot by this particular car as well. It is not that no learning has taken place. So, in either case, good or bad, good or poor, we can conclude that the effect of designing is to initiate a change in the man made things. So both these cars have initiated a change in the man-made thing. It has initiated a thought process that yes, this can be done. We can bring the cost down. The consumer segment is important. We need to look at all the consumer segments, not just the higher class, but also the middle and lower should also be included. Then only we will be a completely inclusive society when all of us can enjoy the life and what it has to offer in our own ways. So, so this is the learning that we can take from here, that uh, we need to change something in the man-made things. Now, another small example I will give here is of Hershey's chocolate. So it's a US brand, and when it came in the market, it was very successful, and they were selling a Hershey's bar, a standard size bar, for 5 cents, and they kept on selling this for 5 cents for many decades, actually, and it was doing very well. But later, because of the cost cutting and other factors, now the team probably sat together and thought whether they should make it 10 cent. But maybe the customers will not accept it. So now what they did was they kept the 5 cent where it was, but they cut down on the quantity. So made it a little bit smaller. And still it was sold. And then they brought in another one at a higher price. So then they kind of um, expanded into many different uh, sizes and features of chocolates. So, so basically, it is to say that we have to initiate a change, and the positive will tell us, give us some learning, and the negative will give us some learning. So this is the basic definition that I have put it here in the center. Now, this can be basically, for the time being, we can use this as a simple and universal definition of the process that initially took place on the drawing board, and now it is also including the R&D, research and development. So we can see that how we are kind of coming from just doing something on the drawing board. And if you notice in the definitions here, there was no mention of a drawing. There is in any of the definitions, nobody is saying that design is a drawing process, because we will see that drawing actually comes at the very end. Drawing or putting down your thoughts to come up with the final design is a very end activity. But there are many things which come before. That is why there is, even in 60s, nobody has mentioned the term drawing. They have mentioned problem solving activity, they have mentioned future possibilities, but nowhere have they mentioned the term drawing. Now, this change that we want to initiate in the man-made things can be of several, all these areas. urban areas, rural areas, institutions, transportation, in all walks of life. So if wherever there is a man-made thing, there we can initiate a change, and that change can be for the good and for the bad. And this is more or less design, and how well we put in our creative, how well we integrate the creative juices in this whole process will either make this experience very positive, or it can make it a little bit negative, but it will give us some kind of a learning. And design is actually a very complex process. And what makes it complex, say, if you compare it with, say, an artist or a mathematician, um, how is design different from these particular fields? Now, artist, if we see how he works, artist looks at what is in front of him. So either something which is physically in front of him, or some feeling of, for example, say the any kind of andolan, or any kind of tragedy, or any kind of devastation. So the artist will see what is around him, he will put his feelings into the work. So he is moving in the realm of the present. The mathematician is playing with numbers. So either 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 plus 2 cannot be 7, that we know. So it is either right or wrong. But when it comes to design, design is challenging because we are attempting to solve all of these problems, okay, which maybe some of them will come maybe in the future also. But we are solving them with what we have right now, with the resources that we have now. We have to foresee those problems that might, uh, the society might face in the future, and using the current resources, we have to solve those problems. So that is why the design process becomes a little bit more complex. Now, this is an example. This is a photograph actually of a wheel barrow. Now, design, like I said, the term design thinking and the term designer really came in 1980s. And before that, we did not really have a lot of knowledge of design, or we were not designing at that level, but we did have craft. Because design is said to have come from the craft. Evolution of the craft has slowly led to the design or the design process. So some of us probably collect some craft handicrafts. When we visit some place, we collect the local crafts. We also help the local artisan, and in generating some kind of a revenue. And this craft process produces very beautiful and complicated objects. And sometimes we can also mistake them for a skilled designer's product, because they are so well made at times. And it is also very interesting that most of the times the craftsman is actually illiterate, and he's only using his very simple tools to work. He does not have very fancy machines or tools or products to work with. So he works with only the locally available materials and some tools that he has, and he works with them to produce these beautiful things. Now, this is the Wheelwright's Shop, is by George Stewart, and it is an account of the wagon making process in 19th century. So he did a whole study on all the wagons that were there in 1923. There were no motorized cars, or very few at that time, and majority of the transportation was, whether it was to transport goods from one place to the other, was being done with these horse carts. So horses were attached here, and the product were transported. Now, if you notice in the, so basically, George Stewart was observing these carts, these wheelbarrows, and understanding, because at that time the design process we were unaware of. So he was trying to understand how this has come up. Why? Because the artisan, the person who has made this, knows what is to be made. He knows I have to make the wheel like this. It has to be of a certain material. It has to be of a certain diameter. It has to have these many spokes in it. But why is he doing it? He does not know that. So when somebody asks, why are you making it like this? He will not have an answer, because this craft making process is being followed from generation to generation. So he learned from his father, he learned from his father, and they are just observing and continuing this process. So how he can tell us, but why he cannot tell us? So for that reason, Stuart took this project of observing all these carts to see that how have they been designed. So now if you look at this wheel here, it has kind of a dish kind of a shape, so it is a little bit of a concave. So the spokes you can see are going back a little bit. These are not straight. So why? So Stuart asked, why do they have this kind of this particular form? Why is it that if the wheel is made straight, if there is no concavity, why is it that the wheel, I mean, the wheel just crumbles and just gets crushed under the weight of the wagon? If a lot of weight is, if bricks are being carried here, why is it that the wheel crushes if it is not in this design? And why, when bricks are added in this particular design, why is it that this wheel is not getting crushed? Why is it still maintaining its form? So he was really intrigued, sorry, about these questions, that how is this form not really getting crushed? So uh, so he was observing this, and he came up to certain reasons for this. One was that this kind of a design allowed for turning radius, which was reduced. Now this whole car could turn around smaller or shorter uh, turns. The other thing which is very important was that it is being attached to a horse. Now horse has a certain way of walking, so it trots. Now the how the horse is kind of, when somebody is sitting on it, they are also jumping, because the horse is trotting. It is not walking like a cow or a buffalo. It is kind of jumping. Uh, what is happening is that the cart is moving up and down, and the cart is also moving in this direction, in this direction as well, if you can see my mouse. So it is moving up and down, and it is also moving in this direction. So the the weight is being thrown here when the horse lifts one of its leg, and then it is thrown here on the other side, then it is thrown here and then back again. So this process of left and right and up and down is happening at the same time. So this particular design takes care of that particular motion also, that it does not allow it to cave in. And this continuous thrust that is there, it takes care of that, and the center of gravity is maintained. So many technical things, but the craftsman is not able to tell us. He is not able to tell us why he's doing it. So it's such a pity that so many wonderful designs did not really have an explanation, and that was one main reason also for this whole design thinking, to really understand that what is the process of this design to kind of make it a transparent box. And this but of course this process, because it happened over generations, so it was modified by countless failures, and many trials and testings were done, and many errors over the centuries. So it was not a very quick process. It took a lot of time, but now because we understand a lot of things, now the design process has actually become very, very easy for us. So because we understand all these technical issues, and now we can design a much efficient, uh, uh, this cart with the information or knowledge that we have. So we'll just quickly look at the engineering process or design process that we are familiar with nowadays, and we will look at it later as well. So we look at the feasibility of the product, and then we find a set of feasible concepts. Then we have preliminary design, then selection of best concept. Okay, maybe I will move forward and we will see with the help of example. It will be better, I believe. Okay, so here I just wanted to show that uh, how man is like changing over time, and how the challenges that are thrown in our direction are also changing. So here there was probably the challenge of shelter, or saving himself from other animals, or eating food, or killing for survival. And now we have very different kind of challenges, and especially with COVID, I mean, it's the ultimate challenge of our lives probably. But we always have to keep in mind that the future will always present us with more complicated problems, and that is the reason why we need new methods. So just a few uh, you know problems that we see on a daily basis here. Because these problems, if you see, have we solved traffic congestion problem? No. Have we solved parking problems? No. Have we been able to eliminate road accidents? No. So for each of these, probably the answer is no only. Because something is taken care of, then suddenly a new challenge comes up, and we need to find a new solution for that. So the challenges are ever changing, and we are kind of trying to keep up with those. Now, this is just a diagram again from our daily lives, just to show that how the act of design kind of spans over all these different levels. So we saw the city level parking congestion and other things. How on a city level, the community level, it's a big problem. How when we come a little bit lower on the system level, we have, these are just three I'm showing here, but there are many more branches here. And how again, on the product level, there are uh, problems in houses, vehicles, roads, and again on the component level, we have many more. So these problems are kind of just multiplying further and further and further. So they are making this um, kind of a web of problems that we are constantly trying to find solutions for. So when we try to, or when we see that how can we disintegrate this design process, what really are the stages of design process. So basically there are three stages: analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So we are breaking this problem into pieces, and we are putting the pieces together in a new way, and then basically testing to find the consequences of putting the new arrangement into practice. So it involves a number of steps. So in the first, this is a little bit of a theoretical slides. I thought maybe you would want some theoretical aspect also, maybe in terms of sentences or words, but later on I will show some practical examples also. Now, this is the first step, which is the divergence. Now, at this particular step, and what this term divergence means is that it's basically the act of extending the boundary of a design situation, so that we have a big enough space where we can look for a solution. So we don't want to put ourselves in a very small box and look for a solution there. That is why we always say, think outside the box. So we don't want to put ourselves or confine ourselves in a small box. where only there is one or two solutions available to us. Now, at this particular stage, when we are looking for a solution, when we have kind of gotten a big space for us so that the creativity can also flourish, because we don't want to lose creativity at any stage. Creativity is going hand in hand with our design process. Now, here we are involving both the rational and intuitive actions. And this stage actually requires one to really run around, really move around and talk to people, get some data, and gather more information, right? And interestingly, this particular skill that is, uh, um, you know, of this divergence, it actually comes very easily to those who have a background in essay writing or scientific research or statistical analysis, as compared to people who are trained in engineering or in architecture or designers, because these people are involved in professions that deal with problem solving. So when they see a problem, they quickly come up with an answer. Okay, this is the problem. You take this as a solution. So for them, this process of unlearning is required for these people who come up with very quick, uh, answers. So what is needed here at this stage is somebody with an open mind who would not just jump on the first possible solution, but who would explore further and see what can we do with this. Now, this is the transformation. This is that particular level where the creativity is required, and at the highest level, basically. And we cannot do without creativity. If there's no creativity here, then so at this particular stage, creativity in high doses is required. And if it is not there for some reason, then I mean, it's not going to work any further. Basically, the 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 process stops here. So, and interestingly, this is that particular stage where we can still manage to make big blunders. We can still manage to make a lot of mistakes, because once we move forward from this stage, then there is no room for any kind of discussion or going back. So here is where all of it happens. And the this pattern that is here, this pattern that we see here, this basically is uh, the whole process, that how the single design that eventually we will be finalizing at the end. So so this pattern of design, wherein it allows us to kind of have that room where it reflects all the realities of the situation, basically, so we don't miss out on any of the features, even though they might seem like a very small detail, but so that we don't miss out on any of these small details. Now the sub problems. Now the sub problems, because we are splitting the problem into sub problems here. But of course, at this stage, we have problem boundaries. We will talk about this also. But the sub problems at this stage can be many sub problems that are joined together either in a linear fashion or in series or in parallel, or they can also be looked at in isolation. But the second requirement that we have here is very tough, because once we fix our problem boundary, then our sub problem we cannot change again and again. So we need to be very careful at this second stage, that what are the objective, brief, and the problem boundaries, because as per these only we will be splitting up this problem into sub problems. And if we feel that, oh, we have not really set our objective properly, or we have not been able to identify a problem boundaries very well, then it is a problem, because we have to go back to the stage 1 in this particular case. So it is very important that at this stage, when we are fixing this, we are ensuring that we are not missing out or leaving out any particular detail at this particular stage. And now this is the final stage where we are converging, and the problem has been defined, variables have been defined, everything has been fixed, and there is no room for flexibility anymore. And we have reduced the options to a final design, and now we have to uh, decide how can we produce it and the other steps that will follow. Now, I will talk about certain design methods. So, of this particular stage. So, this transformation stage where I said high level of creativity is required. So, I will just show a couple of design methods. There are 33 design methods, and I will just show 2, 3 that how can we break that mental barrier and find a solution. Now, one very basic method that usually one starts with, and this is specifically for products that are already existing, and the sponsor requires the design team to improve upon that existing design. So that is why, to find directions in which to search for design improvements. So not for a radical new product, but how can the design be improved? And many times, a lot of fresh graduates from design discipline, when they join companies, they are given this kind of a work. So all these images are from Google. So I have not taken these photos. Now, here is an example of a bike. So this is an older one. This is a newer version. What is it that now visual inconsistency is that when we are observing a product visually, so where is it that things are not going together? Like, is this particular fuel tank or this exhaust, why is it in this particular shape? Why are there so many bends here? Why is there a joint here? This mud guard, why is it not following the shape of the wheel? uh, why so much of a gap here? Of course, suspension and other things are there, but this visually does not look as it goes together. So there could be many such observations. Why so much of a gap here? It looks so disjointed. uh, or this looks very uncomfortable. One might burn their leg if it comes too close to it. So these are the ways that the observer would in person observe these products, and then would suggest that, can we decrease this gap here? So much of space is being wasted. Why can't we utilize this space and keep some of the component here? And why so much of space here? And this looks like, it appears like very tired, because even the products communicate the feel about them. Now, one might feel that this looks like a very tired bike. Its shoulders are drooping, it is looking down, it does not look very active. So I mean, all of these kind of feedback can help change the look of the product. So now it looks a little bit more active. It looks a little bit more, ready to take on any challenge, or something which is stronger, or something more powerful. So the design can also convey these feelings of power, of strong, of it being strong. Now, this is a kettle designed by Michael Graves. And the brief here of the product was that this product should be playful, and they required the whistle. Uh, uh, that was a requirement. So they went ahead with the very basic shapes, conical shapes here, circle here, and they have tried to communicate some kind of learning also with the help of color here. So we can see that this handle is blue in color, and these dots here are red. Now, we don't need to be designers to really understand that when we see color blue, it kind of denotes something which is cool, and the red color denotes something which is hot. So this design is trying to convey that beyond this blue handle, everything is hot. So please be careful while handling it. And the bird has been added as a whistle, and it is also red because steam will come out from here. And steam is potentially a very dangerous, more dangerous than even boiled water. So how the design is also conveying that information, and the base being broader so that the weight is distributed such that the kettle does not topple even if there is less amount of water. So all those small details have been taken care of. So now when somebody will study this for any kind of visual inconsistency, probably they will not find a lot of inconsistency here, because they have a lot of research has gone into it in terms of the color and material and other aesthetic features. Now the next design method is synectics. Now, synectic thinking is where we take some elements that are not really connected with each other, and we kind of uh, find links that unite them, that join them. So now, some in terms of words, uh, we use some kind of thinking like analogical thinking. Children are sponges. Now, children, I mean, they are not literally sponges. When they touch water, they don't soak it, but they do soak up information. They do soak up what we talk in the house, and they learn our actions, they copy our actions. So they do behave like sponges in a manner. And the metaphorical thinking, that food chain. But there is no food chain really. We can't really see a chain, but we know that it works in a certain manner, that this eats that and that eats that, and so on it goes. So there are 23 design synectic triggers, which are metaphorical, or in some way or the other, they kind of unite something. So let us take a look at some of these. Now, if the problem to me given is that reinvent a phone. Now, I am in that kind of a state of mind where the creative juices are not flowing. I am unable to, you know, just think of a solution. How do I reinvent this phone? I mean, it's a decent looking phone. It is working fine. I pick up the, this speaker, and I can talk to somebody. So what is? I mean, I don't know how to work on it further. It is fine. So now I am in a stage where I am having this mind block, or there are writers who have writer's block, and designers also have these creativity blocks. So I might go back and look at these triggers. Can I subtract something? Can I repeat something? So then I pick one of these triggers and I say subtract. Okay, so I would subtract the dial pad from the phone, because the dial pad, it takes a lot of time to dial the number. I have to go round and round, and it's time taking. Plus, I am old, so my fingers hurt. Can I subtract it, and can I have another way of dialing the number? So I subtract it, but what do I replace it with? Okay, maybe something that I can punch, right? So this is one level of it. Now I have this phone here, but I want to improve it. So when somebody calls me, I am not able to identify who calls me. Maybe, I don't want to take somebody's call, but I pick it up anyway. Can I identify the number? Can I ask for help from the operator? Can I dial in by speaking and not by dialing the numbers? So then I'm combining something, I'm adding something to kind of get a more modified version wherein I can see the number here, I can speak in the phone. And then maybe another level of addition wherein empathize. I want to, you know, design a phone that can be used by somebody who's on a wheelchair. He's moving here and there. who does not have to climb down the staircase and come to the phone, but we can go and give him the phone, or somebody who's elderly can't really climb down or climb up to reach the phone. So now we have a cordless one. Then superimpose. Can I have a phone with the screen like my computer screen, and now we have a computer in my hand. So how these can work? They work also, if you see, in the case of a camera, how a camera over time has changed so much that the phone, every phone carries a camera now. So there are multiple examples of how this particular uh, you know uh, design method synectics can work here. So much so that now we have these phones that fold, uh, and I mean, these are, I think, some these are the examples which are not existing probably, but this is out in the market. This Samsung phone is out there wherein it folds. And some other simpler examples that we have around us, that how can I hold the phone when I'm traveling in a bus, for example, and somebody pushes me, and my phone should not, I should not just kind of be pushed and my phone goes flying out the window. So how do I stop that from happening? So some gadgets for that. Or I want to have a Zoom meeting on my phone, but I can't keep on holding it in my hand. Can I have a stand attached to it? Or, there's so much of negativity about the rays it is emitting. Can I go back to the older ways and have a safe conversation? Then maybe adding something like this. So these figures really help in kind of um, generating new creative ideas. Now, the other one is innovation by boundary shifting. So, again, this helps when we are having that kind of a mental block where we are not able to really move forward because we are thinking of the problem statement over and over and over again. And that statement, we will also see later on that how that statement can be written so that this loop does not happen and we are able to see our process easily. But if in case it is happening, then how do we tap into again our creative juices? So this is by boundary shifting. So we shift the boundary slightly of our problem statement so we can use the resources that are available outside, and then we can use those resources in our products or in our design. So there are 9 transformations that can happen: put to other uses, adapt, modify, magnify. So these terms, if I look at these, magnify, can I magnify this? Can I rearrange this? So these terms help in just kind of thinking outside the box, so to speak. Now, if I have a problem that I have a large garden and I have to water my plants every day. So I have to move on from one area to the other, because if I don't do that, then a pool of water will collect, and some part will remain dry, some will remain wet. How do I solve this? So using the resources that are already there, a shower head. Now we know that the shower head disperses the water in many different directions. Can we substitute this to make into a sprinkler system? Or can we kind of, uh, substitute this to create another design of the shower which gives me another kind of experience? So here we have put to other uses we have used, and here we have probably used combining these two to give us another, like we are standing in under the waterfall experience. So now the design process. So I will show with the help of a story, because in my classes usually I uh, generally tell stories, because I think stories really help us retain that information and for a longer time, and also communicates quite well. So I have made up this little story. So I hope you do retain it. Now, So this is just a slide to show that object and artifact. So what are these two terms? So object is any object that basically, exists in nature, like a fossil. An artifact usually is used for a product that has been man-made. So although we do use object also, or a product, we call it something, by several names, but usually artifact is a better term when we're talking about man-made objects. Now, this is a story now, wherein we are looking at the noodles. So the oldest historical mention of noodles was in 3rd century AD in China. This is just for background information, not really relevant for us. But we have this guy who from India goes to China to learn the art of making noodles, how to make noodles, because he really likes these noodles. And he comes back and he starts making, his noodles. And he opens up a small shop, and people are curious. Oh, something new is being sold here. Let us go and try it out. So a lot of people come in, word of mouth spreads. Oh, some very interesting dish this guy is making, old man is making. You should also go and check it out. It's like amazing. So for a few days, people flocked over his cart, and in a few hours, he was out of the noodles, and people had to go back, without the noodles, disappointed. So he was very happy. But over time, what happened was that people started noticing that this man is using his hands to transfer these noodles on our plate. Has he washed his hands? Are his hands clean? Is he touching the veg noodle and non-veg noodle by the same hand? And several questions came to their mind. So they started kind of, avoiding. Oh, forget it. It's very tasty, but let it be because I don't want to fall sick. So this old man is like, oh my God, my flourishing business is like, failing. And my whole house is full of noodles, but nobody is there to eat it. So then he understands what is the problem. So he thinks, let us make a tool, some tool so that I will not touch the noodles with my hands. So now he comes up with this cardboard model. And sorry about this poor illustration, but I hope you understand that these orange things are the noodles here. So he now makes this cardboard device, and he's like, okay, now I can transfer the noodles without touching with my fingers. And now what happened? When he started using it, people started coming back to his shop. So we can see that there was a problem that the old guy saw, and there was a gap, because when there is a problem, that means there is a gap. So the gap was that there was nothing between his hands and the noodles. So this old man reflected on this problem, on this gap, and then as a response to that observation, he conceived a form, and he then made that form, and which did the job. So what if you see it in this particular form, because it is not a linear, it's not a linear solution. It is actually kind of a chain process, wherein there is some user experience, then there is some gap, some level of dislike basically, and then the design process happens. There is some idea or some plan is worked out, and then the production or the manufacturing happens, which comes up with the artifact, and then again it goes back into that system wherein the user again starts using it, and again the user experience begins with this new product, and again there might be a gap, and this cycle basically continues. This goes on and on and on. Now we can say simply, if we uh, put uh, this whole understanding together in a simple definition, we can say that design is conceiving and giving forms to artifacts or products that solve problems. Just like that old man who conceived and gave a form to a product which ultimately solved his problem. Now, when this guy is again, uh, you know, using this new product, what is happening is because of the material, this is disintegrating. It's cardboard, and noodles are wet. So it is disintegrating, it is getting destroyed. So now, again, there is a new gap here. So, and he has to keep on making these, manufacturing these in his home. Maybe there is some glue also which is going into the food. So now again there is some gap. Again there is a design process. Again some idea. Now he has come up with another product with a similar product with a different material. Okay, this is not a perfect example. I just took this from Google, but I hope you get the idea. And now again there is the change starts where the user experience is there. User is like, this product is okay, sorry, the product is fine, but what is happening is that my sauce is being left behind. I'm not getting enough sauce because it is sticking to this metal. So my, it's the taste is not the same. So now this guy again responds to that gap, and now he comes up with an artifact which now is of this particular shape, so that the contact with the noodle is minimum and the sauce is not displaced. So you see that how this process is going over and over, wherein there is a gap, and the idea is being come up with. But in real life, so this is a story, but when we are in the real life, at in the real life we cannot keep on going over this process again and again, because all of this process takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money also, and material also, and the process also needs to be designed for it over and over again. So we cannot keep on going in circles again and again with different materials and taking user experience again and again. So when we sense the gap and define the problem, we explore the alternatives. So at this particular stage itself, I think I don't have that slide, but at this particular stage itself, we will have several of these ideas. We will have this also, this also, this also at this stage itself. And then we will come up with the best or the final design. So at this stage now we are exploring the alternatives, and then we are selecting the final plan and coming up here. So at this particular stage we are letting all our uh, creative juices flow in these particular steps. So the central element of this gap in this particular story is our this pair of tongs, we can say, which need to be ergonomic, which have to be aesthetic, they have to be hygienic, and the production cost also needs to be taken care of. And in any product that we have, there are micro level iterations and multiple life cycle or generation iterations. Now, micro level, now of course, this will not be uh, for this. So we have explored the alternatives, we have come up with the final plan. In the final plan, over time we might need to add micro level iterations or multiple lifestyle cycle iterations. So micro level, I'm just giving an example here, that maybe adding a little bit of a grip here, some grips so that we can hold it better, or adding a handle here so we don't have to hold this from here. So these are examples of micro iterations. Multiple life cycle generation iteration we can see as the phone, for example, that how over multiple life cycles the phone has changed its form and function from this to this now, right? So now this sensing of the gap because you don't have to be a designer. I mean, one does not need to have a degree of design to be a problem solver. And fortunately, Indians and India has come up with this term, jugaad. So, which is the mother of all invention. So, as long as one can work in the direction of jugaad or is jugadu, that person is himself or herself half the designer. And we all are on certain levels designer. So, but how do we sense this gap? Now, this gap identification is a very important thing and probably a big challenge also sometimes, um, because what really is the problem? Understanding the problem is really important, and for that we have to observe. Now, this gap can be found in our office project. How do I conduct this class properly? How do I communicate with my students? I have to show an equation. I have to solve a mathematical equation. How do I solve it properly? Or some assignments that the students are thinking of, how do I submit it? I don't have a scanner. I don't have a XYZ item. Or it could be our personal experience that I am having a problem with say uh, for example, that mosquito coil, for example. I don't have that stand of the mosquito coil. How do I light it up? I can't keep it on the floor. How do I burn it? That is my personal experience. It's a personal gap for me that I need to burn that mosquito coil at night, but I can't find that little stand. So what do I do? Or observation that somebody else I see struggling with something, and maybe they are not able to, sense that problem. But I, as an observer, can see that this guy is, struggling with this, so he needs some kind of help. So the gap can be identified in many different ways, and then comes the next thing, which is define the problem. So we had seen in the earlier slides also divergence, transformation, and convergence. That the second stage. Excuse me, I'll just have a little bit of water. So in the second stage, we saw that defining the problem becomes very important. So how can we define this problem in one single simple statement? And the second part of this is the detailed set of user needs. Now, if I say, looking at our old man's problem, if I say that if I put his problem into a design statement, a problem statement, and I say, design a better pair of tongs. Okay. So what happens here when I say this? What happens here is that I am thinking about tongs. So because now I have an image of tongs in my mind already. I may have seen some kind of tongs. Now that image is in my mind. Design a better pair of tongs. Okay, so tongs, they look like this. So design better. So should I add a better grip? Should I add more teeth? So I will be kind of stuck in this image of this tong. So when we see this particular statement, we are assuming a few things, that it is to be held in the hand. We are thinking of the geometry because we are familiar with some kind of a tong from our daily life, and we know that the action of user's hand, that usually it has two uh, stick like things, and they are connected here, and the user will kind of bring these two together to ultimately hold the item. So now if we look at general, neutral, specific, where does this statement fall? Design a better pair of tongs. It falls in the very specific bracket. Now, when that happens, our creativity goes out the window because we are designing and we can't do it without creativity. So when we are very specific with our design statement, our creativity says, okay, bye bye. all the best with your problem solving, then we are bound to fail. There's no way we can recover from there. That is why the problem statement is the most important step here. And if we frame it incorrectly, then it poses a very big problem for us in the future. On the other hand, if I say, how do we create a better handheld tool for transferring noodles? So now we have a lot more scope here, because I'm assuming that it is handheld, okay, because of course some human will be using it. It's not a machine, not a robotic thing. So it is handheld, all right. And it will be transferring. It will be transferring, okay. So from one place to the other, I have to transfer noodles, all right, okay. But what we don't know here is that how will we do that? So now what happens here is that we have a lot more scope. So the creativity is coming back now. Creativity says, okay, now I can do something here. Now, thank you. Now I can give some inputs here, because I could not, when you said design a better pair of tongs, I could not really work anymore. But now I can help you out here. So this is why the fixing the design brief is really, really important. And it's a make or break kind of a stage, basically. And the next part B we saw was develop detailed set of user needs. This is very, very important, because ultimately we are designing all this briefing of this design brief we are making for the user only. It's not for us, it's for the user. And we want this particular handheld tool to be used by as many people as possible. So now for user needs, at least 30 user needs should be there, and up to 400 depending on the scale of the product. But for any simple product also, up to 30 user needs is a good number, because that can tell us about their needs and wants. So now I have made some user needs to help out our old man here. So these are some user needs, and I have put them under a heading, a broad heading, which kind of summarizes this particular group of user needs. So the tool has a good grip, so it does not slip out of the hand. It maintains good grip on the food, does not get hot. Then tool is multi-purpose, can grip noodles, can grip flatbread, can grip pasta. So you see, I mean, you can maybe read the rest of these. I will not read them out individually, but there are various, user needs that I have been able to identify by talking to people who use these, who work in the food department, or who probably use these tongs mm, generally at home quite a lot. So from them, these user needs I have got. But we will have to be careful when we are kind of working with user needs, because we will not get users who will value every user need. Like for example, the tool can be carried easily. Now, not everybody will be carrying with this particular tool, because now maybe this need has been given to me by, say, uh, a chef, somebody who comes on TV, and he's a chef, and he has to use his own equipment, and he has to carry it, and he says, I want to be able to carry this tool easily. But I am a tourist, I am going to France on a trip. Why would I be carrying a pair of tongs in my bag? Of course, doesn't make any sense. So we will have to be careful that not all users will value every user need. So we will need to maybe eliminate some of those user needs. Now, there could be some contradictory user needs also. And going back to the first one, we may have to then realign our user needs, that is it really that important, or less important? If less important, can I like completely remove it? Will the product still look like or still do a very good job, or will this user need really make some difference in it? So I will have to evaluate that basically. Contradictory is when two two needs are totally different. So it says a tool is pleasant looking, so it is nice to look at, and this one says tool does not look like a tool. So I mean, these could be contradictory. I could not come up with a better example, but there are many users who will say the opposite of the other user has said. Then the third is the priority of the user needs. So which priority is more important, or which is need is more priority? So tool does not slip out of the hand, and tool can change colors. So of course, tool, if it remains the same color, it will not really affect its usability. But if it slips out of the hand, then it may create some kind of a dangerous situation. So that is why we divide them in different categories. Now, this is an important chart which I actually show in most of my presentations, because it is really a very, very important part of design. And I think this is one of the best ways to actually show and talk about user needs. Now, this is the Kano method, and sorry, this is the Kano method, and you can see that Kano method has various uh, I mean, some modifications are there. If you Google this, you will get many images of the Kano method, and some will be different from the other. Now, what basically it is that he has, there are these y-axis and the x-axis, and there are some. So when we go towards the right, the need is fully met. When we go above, so this quadrant is positive, wherein this is delight. When we go down, dissatisfaction, and when we go left, need not met at all. So he has identified 4 basic user needs, customer needs, which tell us whether the customer would be satisfied or not. Maybe some of you are already aware of it, and maybe you can explain it much better than how I am, but I will just take a shot at it. So the first need here is I don't care. Now, there are some users who would not care about that particular need, like being able to take it while traveling. So I don't care about this need. So even if it is travel friendly, it is okay. I don't care about this particular need. But this is not a dissatisfaction. As long as it is not making it difficult to carry, or it is bulky, then I don't care about this particular requirement. Second is our linear, and generally it is that you know I have bought a Maruti Alto. It is for so and so rupees, and it does the job. It takes me from point A to point B. So the output is equal to the input I have put in. So it is linear. It is fulfilling my needs. I am satisfied as a customer. The third is the must have. Now, must have are the items or the needs that have to be there, the features that have to be there in a product to be successful. If the must have is not there, if the tool is not able to grip only, if there are no teeth and the noodles are slipping when I am trying to hold it, so it is a useless product. So it's going to make me intensely dissatisfied. And the last one, and the most important one, is the latent need. Now, latent need is a need that that when it is not, when it is there, when let's talk about first that when the latent need is available or present in the product, then the customer or the user actually may not even notice that it is there, because it is that invisible need that the product is giving us or catering to our need, which is the invisible need. But when it is not there, then it gives us immense dissatisfaction. It really, really makes life very difficult for us. And I will give you a small example from my own experience And I think I give this too many times as example, because actually it is quite a problematic thing for me. Now I have a table in my office, had a table actually, and it was fine. Four legs, very old, government office table types, that green painted legs and everything, with two drawers, metal drawers. It's fine. And I'm sitting there working there. All is fine. Now we decided to get these fancy looking furniture from this so and so company, and we have got this nice chair wherein we have a plywood table, with all these tall drawers and everything. But the minute I sit on my chair, and I'm like, after 5 minutes, it's like something is wrong. Something is the problem. And and then I was moving my feet around, literally, to find the footrest. And actually my legs are like flying in the air, and I'm trying to touch the uh, this footrest. I don't feel it, so I had to literally turn down to see underneath the table. And the table does not have a footrest, because now there are no four legs. Now it is a piece of uh, plywood. uh, Basically the top is resting on two vertical pieces of plywood, so they don't need any connector in between anymore. So the design eliminates the need of a connector to hold it together. But they have been, made a very minimalistic design. But what it has done to the consumer is that I am not able to now place my feet or change the positioning of my feet anymore. So either they are flat on the floor, or they are, I try and find some place on my chair to place them, underneath my chair. But now my chair also has changed, because I used to have a stool earlier which used to have these leg rests, and now I have a chair, a rotating fancy looking chair, but I can't place my feet. So you see, this was, as a consumer, my latent need, which the design company did not identify. But unfortunately, I am not at that level that I can reject this product, because the department has bought this, a lot of money has been spent on it, and unfortunately the old tables have been written off. So I can't even say give me my old table back. So you see, now I have been kind of left in a soup, so I have to make do with what I have been given. So just an example to, and maybe you can identify while next few slides, that what are the latent needs that you have as a consumer. And when we are trying to, and this is again that creative aspect will come here when we are observing, and when we are making the list of user needs, that how creative can we get to tap into that latent need section. Because must have, obviously table is a must have, it has to have a top, it is there. Of course it will not make any sense if there are two vertical plyboards, it will not pass off as a table. So must haves, of course, one would take them down, but latent needs are something that are really important, and they cannot be missed by the designer. So how do we identify needs? I will quickly go through these because I think time is running out, and I actually wanted to leave some time for you all to work on a small little problem, to have a little interaction session. But unfortunately, um, sorry, I speak too much, and because of that, I'm still speaking. So I will try and wrap it up as quickly as I can. So how do we identify the needs? Observe, take interviews, collect data, prepare need statements, identify latent needs. Observation methods, I would like to talk about these at length, but unfortunately I cannot. But this text should be good enough to identify all these actions that can tell us that the user is not very comfortable, there is some discomfort while using the product. Then interviews, one-on-one interviews, some questions like, can you show me, asking questions, documenting. So all these are very helpful, these points. Then arranging the needs in hierarchy. And so you've already seen some of the examples. Flag the latent need. So just uh, putting some kind of a mark like a star or something that the knitted needs, that it has a safety lock, it does not rust, it does not damage. So maybe these are the latent needs for this particular user. So identifying those and flagging those so that you don't miss out on the process. And now we know what, and now we go how. So we know what is to be done, and now we go to how it is to be done. So then we come on to the design concept. So design concept is usually now when we start to work on our paper, on our table, and we come up with some kind of a visual description of the solution that we are working out on. So I will just show you, this is one of my students' work actually, which we are publishing soon, hopefully in Springer. So this is so I had given him. He was a intern. He's a summer intern, and the problem was of the kitchen. That how to improve the kitchen, especially for elderly people. So you can see that these are the methodology steps that are here, and I will quickly go through these. Uh, so now motivation, objective, so here we had to keep the term kitchen because, of course, we are going to working on a compact downsizing the kitchen. So we had to keep some of the keywords here, couldn't do away without it. And then the literature review, wherein studying the books and internet sources about what are the different dimensions for wheelchairs, for and if it is wheelchair can move in that space, then any healthy person can also move in that space. So the whole uh, game of percentile. Then uh, conducting surveys, asking for problems, feedback from the users. What are the problems that they face in the kitchen? Um, so you can see here various areas were uh, you know discussed, and they we can see from number of people that how many had problems with these specific areas. Then we came to the mission statement, also described the benefit, the primary market, secondary market, assumptions, stakeholders. And next came the, I mean, there were a lot of work that went behind this, compiling of all the uh, data and everything, analyzing it, and then the concept ideation. So at this stage, CAD drawings, after sketches, I don't have those sketches actually, unfortunately, but then we went on to, after CAD drawings, went ahead with several ideas on CAD that uh, will it be possible, uh, dimensions and other things, trying to understand it, and then making it into block models, uh, just simple blocks here, different configurations, a couple of different concepts. How can this fold and become smaller and things like that. And finally, coming down onto the basic six solutions, and then kind of picking the best feature and integrating, incorporating to come up with the final uh, design, wherein all these spaces are demarcated for different products, and minimizing the basic basic need, wherein people did not want to walk that much or they wanted more space. And then came to the final CAD model, and I will just show a little animation. Yeah, so I will not go in detail again. It can go on for very long, but how we can provide, electric cooking stove, and this space can be used for storage. But if we are using a standard stove, then this can be utilized for keeping the LPG cylinder, etc., etc. Then moving on to, okay, so basically, uh, just a couple of examples that how the concept uh, is important, how it is transparent, what it shows is what you get, basically low manufacturing cost, and also this wow factor should be there in a product so that the user, the attention is grabbed. If the product is very much functional and usable, but it is not able to grab my attention, then also it is not really a very good design. So aesthetics is missing in that case. So creativity was there in terms of innovation and problem solving, but the creativity was missing when it came to the aesthetic part of it. So these are some examples I wanted to talk about, but I have fortunately written down some of the important points. So you can just read about these, and I will share the PPT also, so you can read about these products. So basically, how the material choice, and you can see it in 1979, so pretty old, and how the center of gravity was maintained. It was very important because this was for policemen, and maybe you can just Google and you can find more information about these products. The museum watch, the Coco Chanel perfume, and why it was number five, because out of the whole range of perfumes that Ernest showed Coco Chanel when she was trying to make a perfume in her company, in her name. So she liked the number five that she tried. So that is why this perfume got the name number five. And
Excuse
also
me,
the
ma'am.
geometry. Yeah.
Ma'am, it's a few minutes past 5 o'clock, ma'am. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
if you could.
I have three more slides. I'm just finishing.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
So that is why I'm not reading all this. So I will leave it up to you all to read it. And then the officer's knife. Um, so again, I will not go in detail here. And last is our own Indian invention, which is the Jaipur foot by Ramchandra P.K. Sethi, and how they were not designers. Ramchandra was actually a sculptor who was hired by P.K. Sethi to teach art to children, in who had polio in a school. And while teaching them, he observed that people who were using limbs, artificial limbs, uh, who were, from who were using international company artificial foot, they were not very comfortable because the Indian requirement of sitting down on the floor, of walking barefoot, is very different from the Western concept. So then he kind of came up with this material by accident while he was getting his cycle fixed. So he used a certain kind of rubber, and that gave him the idea that can we use this rubber because it is available in India, and the Indian artisans can very well work on it. So that is how we came up with this product, which is actually, well known around the world, and also the cost. It is like many times cheaper than the international versions. Okay, I think I will stop here, and uh, thank you very much. If there are any questions, please.
Participants, if there are any questions, kindly ask.
Okay, are there some questions in the chat? I can see. Okay. Okay.
No, no, ma'am. They're only compliments, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any questions? Sorry, I took too long to finish the presentation. I think some even left, probably.
Actually, ma'am, the presentation was very nice. We enjoyed a lot. There is
Okay.
nothing to ask. Everything is crystal clear. You explained
Yes,
very well.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Your presentation was very apt. It was like there is nothing. Matlab, it was totally different for a mechanical engineering student.
Uh-huh.
We go through when we talk of design, no, it is all about analysis and all those things.
Yeah.
Learning and listening to a design discourse with all the examples, it was totally amazing. So nice. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
I'm so glad, Naibji, so glad to hear this. And yeah, I mean, the problem is, as you would know, we teachers, we can go on talking and talking. We need
Yeah.
somebody to tell us, please stop now.
No,
So,
no, 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 no.
yeah,
Right.
but I'm really glad that you all understood
No, no,
some
no,
of
no.
the
Got it, got it, got it, got
great,
it.
great.
In fact, I was thinking of you have shown several products like phone and all those things, with all this terminology. So I was
Mm.
comprehending, I was visualizing to, apply this in some of the manufacturing components like forging and all those things, and how to explain, in the
Mm.
context of production engineering and all those things. It's a very good
Mm-hmm.
slides. If you could share those slides, there'll be more great.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I shall share with Professor Rajendra, and then
Rajendra,
maybe
yeah,
he
yeah,
can.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, since there are no more questions, so ma'am, thank you, ma'am, so much for your such a wonderful session, and it was very much self-explanatory most of the things. So, ma'am, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be winding up the session. Participants to kindly report tomorrow at for the first session at 9 a.m.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I think I will take your leave now. Thank
Thank
you.
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you, Sonal ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay, dear participants, we will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you.